and roll. Touchdown, Houston.
Luck throws a spiral. Touchdown.
Yeah, touchdown. Donald Brown.
Beautiful inside in Indianapolis. The 2-11 Texans and the 8-5 Indianapolis Colts. We've had the flip of the coin. The Texans won and they have deferred. And deep back they'll have Cassius Vaughn shaking hands right there with one of the newest Colts, Tashard Choice. Cassius Vaughn is a defensive back, and to kick off for the Houston Texans will be Randy Bullock, who seems to be out of his slump, which is good news for the Texans, and we'll see how he finishes the year. The Texans last week losing against Jacksonville by 7. The Colts lost last week at Cincinnati, and they'll leave it in the end zone. Vaughn with the catch, and out to the 20-yard line, and here comes quarterback Andrew Luck. Solomon, who threw for 4 touchdowns and over 300 yards last week against the Bengals.
Yeah, and Andrew Luck talks about getting off to a fast start in this ball game today. He said we have to avoid digging an early hole for ourselves. I think it all starts with their ability to run the football and add balance to the offense.
Luck is from Houston, Texas, played his high school football there, and he has it with his team. First down and 10. The Colts are the number 19 offense in the NFL. And they go outside to Hilton with a block from Griff Whalen, and then forced out of bounds. Joseph was the one to knock him out. Gain of 7 on the play. 6 different offensive lines. 3rd and 3 week for the Colts. They don't have their starting center, Samson Satelli. He's out with an elbow injury. Mike McGlynn will take his place. Fullback Stanley Havili is out with a knee injury. That'll affect the run game. 2nd down and 3 from the Colt 27. Stands on the block at the left tackle. Going deep for his college teammate, Griff Whalen, activated yesterday. Stanford receiver, practice squad a year ago. The Texan defense, number 3. One of the reasons why these 3 guys up front, including J.J. Watt, who is the reigning NFL Defensive Player of the Year. The linebackers, you see Sharpton and Mays inside, Merciless and Reed outside. Cushing out with a knee injury in fact, about a month ago. Jackson and Joseph are the cornerbacks. Swearinger is the safety. He had a tough go last week with a couple of penalties against the Jacksonville Jaguars on that Thursday night game. 3rd down and 3, and they got the first on a good catch by T.Y. Hilton, who is brought down on the play by Jonathan Joseph. It's a gain of 8 to the 35 and a first down.
T.Y. Hilton also needs to get off to a great start. You see him in that bunch formation, sits it down, that comes over the middle of the field, working against this Texans defense, who's given up touchdowns on the initial drive by their opponent in their last few ball games.
Hilton is the leading receiver for the Indy Colts. That was his 59th reception of the season with the flag. And Jerome Boger is our referee, officiated Super Bowl 47.
Neutral zone infraction. Defense, number 58. 5-yard penalty. Still first down.
Solomon, we know that penalties were a big part of last week in a loss for the Texans.
Yeah, as you take a look at Wade Phillips, he said they practiced this week with officials at every single practice because of those 14 penalties you talked about against Jacksonville. 177 yards and multiple opportunities for the Jaguars to stay on the field, and now they're getting off to that kind of start with the penalty on Brooks Reed.
A lot of teams will do that with the officials in training camp, maybe not as much during the regular season.
Yeah, but when it's been a problem, I think it's one of the adjustments that Wade Phillips had to make.
So here's the 1st and 5 on the game's first possession for the Colts. Donald Brown got by Smith into the secondary, breaking another tackle of KO and knocked out of bounds by Jonathan Joseph. It's a gain to the 34 and a run of 26 yards for Indianapolis.
What a run. And then look, he'll start it here and then watch him break it back and then break the tackle of Shiloh KO at the 2nd level right there. And runners have to be able to do that. You've got to be able to create yards after contact to ignite this running game that really has been struggling, Kevin.
Brown's been starting now for the last couple games, 3rd in a row. Here's a 1st and 10, and it's outside, dropped by Derrick Rogers with the coverage by linebacker Joe Mays. You mentioned in the open, Rogers was a hero last week.
Yeah, he had an incredible game last week against the Cincinnati Bengals, over 100 yards receiving in his initial game. playing for these Indianapolis Colts, and they said that they knew right away, as soon as he stepped onto the field, that he would be a presence. He goes 6'3", 215 pounds, out of Tennessee Tech, so he's going to have to make those catches.
He began at the University of Tennessee and led, in fact, the Southeastern Conference in receiving yards off the field problems. He was suspended, 2nd and 10, and here comes Brown, wrapped up by Swearinger, the good-looking rookie out of South Carolina, on a gain of 4, swerving solidly down to the 30.
And Donald Brown, of course, he's now moved and been penciled into the starting lineup ahead of Trent Richardson. And when we talked to Chuck Pagano, he said it's imperative that they are able to run the football. He believes that it'll go a long way into curing a lot of things to this football team in terms of their inability to score points over the last 6 games.
Trent Richardson has come in on this 3rd down and 6. There's another flag.
Neutral zone infraction. Defense, number 59. 5-yard penalty. Still 3rd down.
Take a look at the last time that they've scored a touchdown in the first half. Got to go all the way back to October 20th. That's been quite a while. And this team has been outscored 114 to 24 points in the first half just in their last 6 ball games. You can go back to them losing a player like Reggie Wayne, and it really shows the lack of productivity for Chuck Pagano's offense, and I think it's put a lot of strain on the defense as well.
Lost Wayne in October, 3rd down and 1. Richardson tries the pile drive, and it looks like those linebackers, Sharpton and company, along with Merciless, there to make the stop. It's been a while. 37 consecutive first half possessions, finishing up on the graphic you just showed us, without a touchdown.
And they gave him a first down.
They did.
And here's the deal. This team has struggled to convert 3rd and 1 opportunities, where they've only converted 50%, 30th in the National Football League. And we talk about this offense being able to stay on the field, keep the defense on the sideline. It starts with their ability to run the football and even convert those 3rd and 1 opportunities.
Bryce McCain is in the secondary. That means they got 5 back there. Brown is back there with Luck. On the game-opening drive, it is a first down. And Donald Brown again proving to be slippery. KO jumps on him. And a nice little run there of 7 yards down to the 17 of the Texans.
Now Donald Brown becomes a starting running back for this football team. You can trust him carrying the ball, Kevin. He's only had 1 fumble in his entire NFL career, going all the way back to his rookie season. Over 500 touches without putting the ball on the ground. That's something that Chuck Pagano and his offense can really use.
Here's the 9th play of the drive, and he's averaging over 5 yards a carry, too.
He's done a phenomenal job since he's been inserted into the lineup.
2nd down and 3. Brown again stood up. Crick was in there, plugging the gap. Not much room. Gain of 2 on the play, and on this drive, they've had a run of 26 by Brown. There have been a couple of Houston penalties. Let's go back to the last first half touchdown, week 7 here against Denver. Kobe Fleener with the 8-yard touchdown reception.
Well, one of the critical areas for this football team is you take a look at Reggie Wayne standing next to Chuck Pagano, 37 straight first half drives without a touchdown.
I mean, that is amazing.
And that's what they talked about today. As they now are entering inside the red zone, they need to get off to an early start. That's something that this team came into today's game emphasizing the most.
Ricardo Matthews is the fullback in this case. Richardson will follow the block. He's bumped by Mohammed and brought down by Mays. And May has submarined his way for a first down near the 14-yard line on that 3rd down and 1. He got it. Another first down on the drive. It started back at the 20.
Well, you have to be impressed with the way they have come out and operated on this drive. They're running the football. Look at the movement up front. And they're starting to get some kind of movement, finding some cracks. You got Ricardo Matthews, as you mentioned, the defensive tackle in the backfield as the lead blocker.
Look at Chuck Pagano, who has gone with an unblemished record coming off a loss, which they had last week at Cincinnati, 42-28, 1st and 10. Luck to the end zone, touchdown. That's caught by his college teammate, Griff Whalen, and that is his first NFL receiving touchdown.
Well, this is perfect timing between quarterback and receiver. And Wade Phillips They like to play a lot of man-to-man coverage, especially down inside the red zone. He's locked up on the right side. Can't see him here against Kareem Jackson. He beats Jackson inside for a touchdown, and Whalen just puts a nice move on Kareem. Once you get inside leverage against man-to-man coverage, that's an easy throw for the quarterback, Andrew Luck.
And for the Texans, that is the 7th opening game touchdown drive they have given up this season, the most in the NFL, with the extra point here by Adam Vinatieri. 7-0 Indianapolis. 9:31 in the first quarter. There are a couple of Houston penalties, but Luck with a 14-yard laser to Griff Whalen. They did that a couple of times in Palo Alto. Timeout. That drive by the Colts had a little bit of everything in it.
It really did, and good balance. We said it started with their ability to run the football, and they got that from Donald Brown. They were able to convert a couple of 3rd and 1s, sustained drives, and make plays down inside the red zone.
The McAfee kickoff is deep and picked up by reserve running back Dennis Johnson. He'll leave it in the end zone, and this will usher in quarterback Case Keenum. And we'll talk about him and the Texans when we come back to Indy.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Southwest Airlines. Find our fares online only at southwest.com. AT&T. Rethink possible. And by Ford. Only Ford gives you EcoBoost fuel economy and a whole lot more.
And that's a fast-moving blimp. Aerial coverage of today's game provided by MetLife. Under 20 degrees, a lot of wind. See some snow. Fell most of yesterday. 1st and 10. Houston. And it is Tate who is drilled by Vontae Davis after a gain of 4. He's up to the 23, 24-yard line with a look at quarterback Case Keenum making his 8th start today. Winless so far. He has been benched twice in the last 4 games.
Yeah, but he says he's learned from those moments when he's come out later in ball games. He says he's got to learn to convert the 3rd down plays and really be able to keep his offense on the football field. It's all about getting off to a fast start for him also here on the road.
Colts a 34 defense, 2nd down and 6. Keenum is out of the University of Houston. There's a block by Jones, another run by Tate, who's playing with 4 cracked ribs. It's got to be painful. And Franklin, with his drawers falling down, looks like there with the gain of 3. The offensive line has been together almost all year, aside from a couple misses by Brown and the right guard Brooks. This line has been intact. In the center is a good one, Chris Myers. Garrett Graham, the tight end, was a game-time decision. Out with a hamstring. Ryan Griffin becomes the starter. Owen Daniels returned delayed another week, although he is practicing just a bit, but not quite ready. There's a 3rd and 3 for the Houston Texans. Blocked by Newton, the right tackle, and that is defended well by Vontae Davis. They were going for Andre Johnson across the middle. 3 and out. The Texans have got a punt, and a flag was thrown on the play in the backfield.
Holding. Offense, number 75. That penalty is declined. The result of the play, 4th down.
I guess I spoke too soon. I mentioned the right tackle.
Yep. And there you see Andre Johnson coming underneath right there, but Vontae Davis doing an even better job. He did have a hand on that back shoulder, but as long as you don't turn the receiver, you're allowed to place your hand there. It doesn't constitute a pass interference penalty.
Here's Shane Leckler to punt. The 13-year Raider is a first-year Texan. Number 4 in gross punting. And deep back is Whalen, the guy that caught that touchdown pass moments ago. And he chases the ball to about the 18 with the hang time of 4.9. So they had a 14-yard touchdown pass from quarterback Luck the first time. 54-yard punt right there and a timeout. Last meeting between these two, week 9. Andre Johnson's 3 touchdowns helped the Texans to a 21-3 halftime lead. We saw the collapse of Texan coach Gary Kubiak at the end of the first half. Colts came back in the second half behind T.Y. Hilton's touchdown receptions. Randy Bullock missed 3 field goals, including a game-tying one as time expired, and the Colts defeated the Texans 27-24. So that brings us to today, where the Texans have never won in Indy. Have lost 11 consecutive games. Overall this season, it's the worst losing streak in the history of the franchise. And here's Luck on 1st and 10, finding Hilton, grabbed by Jonathan Joseph. A diving catch made after a gain of 9 on the quick slant by T.Y. Hilton out of Florida International.
And what a difference a year makes, Kevin, because at this point last year, the Houston Texans had just wrapped up their second consecutive AFC South Division title. And now you fast forward today, the Texans have now lost 14 of their last 17 regular season games. The Indianapolis Colts are now the division winner and looking to head into the postseason. So you had a turnaround for these Houston Texans in terms of the direction of their franchise.
On the 28, second down and 1 for the quarterback Luck, and here comes Smith. Luck, who can move as well as any quarterback, as the pass is caught by Derrick Rogers on the ground near the 39, picks up 10, and that is a Texan first down. Luck on the money. Rogers with a good hold.
And watch, look, here he is right here. And now that should be a sack for against most quarterbacks. But the athleticism and strength of Andrew Luck to drive that ball down the field to Derrick Rogers, where what could have been a sack turns out to be a completion for a first down for the talented Andrew Luck.
Xavier Nixon is now in at the right guard. Wrights has left a possible concussion. We'll try to update that for you. So a new right guard. It's first and 10. They go out to Whalen, who picks up 5. He's hit by Joseph. And he's up to about the 44-yard line for the Indy Colts.
Good break on the ball by Joseph. Andrew Luck is, I think, one of the blossoming stars in our league. One of the best of those young quarterbacks that we put in that bracket of 25 years and younger. I think because, Kevin, he does an excellent job of making plays from the pocket. And I think most defenses sort of underestimate his overall athleticism, his strength in the pocket, and then he can get out of there with his athletic ability.
Well, he's had a good start today, 6 of 8. And here's Brown, and they jump on his back with Smith is right there, and also Brooks. We know about the rookie records he set as a quarterback last year, and he's on his way to breaking records for second-year quarterbacks.
Yeah, and here he'll tell you that the overall completion percentage is something that he wants to improve upon. Last year he completed just below 60% of his passes. He's right around that same area this year, and he would really swap out a lot of those things for more wins and a higher completion percentage. He's the ultimate team player. Doesn't really come out to play for numbers.
6 defensive backs for the Texans on a 3rd and 6 for the Colts. Good block by Costanzo and Nixon. And here goes the quarterback who needs to get to the 49 with the flag thrown, and Luck is out to the 50. So the yards he rushes for there, and he's been the leading rusher last handful of weeks. He picks up 7, but let's see what that flag is all about. It was thrown in the secondary as the Texans were in their dime defense.
While the quarterback was in the pocket, illegal contact, defense, number 21. 5-yard penalty added to the end of the run, automatic first down.
That's one of the extra defensive backs, Bryce McCain. And by the way, the Texans have a new guy calling defensive signals today as we watch the play once again. Defending T.Y. Hilton, and a guy that you know about, Vance Joseph Solly, is now making the defensive calls for Houston.
Yeah, he had served as a secondary coach. He's a talented, smart, innovative guy, and you know he really is good at coaching up technique and fundamentals on the back end in this secondary. They come in today's game ranked 2nd overall in terms of their pass defense, and it's a wonderful opportunity for him to get to call plays on defense on Sunday.
Couple tight ends and a 1st and 10 with Richardson in for the Colts, and it's a little screen pass. Richardson, he's got blockers ahead, including Thornton and Fleener. They knock him over like bowling pins. Down to the 27, catch and run of 18. Our first trip to New York, and James Brown.
Philly at Minnesota, but it's the Vikes.
Oh, it sure is right here. Matt Castle's going to step up from the blitz. He's going to find Greg Jennings from 57 yards out. They get on the board first, and you have to wonder, why did you bring Josh Freeman up there and playing Matt Castle?
Good question. Kevin Harlan, Solomon Wilcox.
That's a great question. I'd like to know that too.
Yeah, sometimes you find out what you got, and you don't find that out until you get them.
Right? And they're paying him over $1 million just to sit on the bench and watch. Here's a 1st and 10 after Richardson picked up 18, and it's picked off on the play. Jonathan Joseph comes up with his 3rd of the year and brought down by the guy that threw it. That was Andrew Luck. It's a 32-yard return, and Vance Joseph dialed up a beautiful defensive call.
It's man-to-man coverage. Jonathan Joseph steps in and steals one down inside the red zone, much to the delight of their defensive coordinator.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Sonos, the wireless hi-fi system. And by Walmart. Walmart's got the season's hottest gifts at everyday low prices. Come in and see for yourself.
Well, an interception thrown for the first time in a long time by Indy quarterback Andrew Luck.
Yeah, 86 pass attempts. He took a shot at Derek Rogers, and Joseph made him pay for it.
Keenum over the head of Tate. That's incomplete. Well, which Joseph? Was it Jonathan Joseph or Vance Joseph who's acting defensive coordinator?
Yeah, both could take credit. There's a post route by Rogers, and watch Jonathan Joseph at the bottom of your screen. Watch him attack and jump this route. It's called inside leverage and man-to-man coverage, upfield shoulder, and then you jump in front and steal one. That's just perfect man-to-man coverage from the off position by the veteran corner, Jonathan Joseph.
Signed the big contract a couple years ago from Cincinnati Bengals. Second down and 10 for Keenum. Right on the screws. Keyshawn Martin breaks the tackle of Butler. Comes out of bounds, and Buffet ushers him out of bounds. That's a first down catch and run of 13 yards for the Texans.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that we should know that. Remember when the owner, Bob McNair, named that Wade Phillips was going to be the interim head coach for the final 3 games, he also said that Case Keenum would be the starting quarterback of those games, signifying a departure from the days of Matt Schaub, clearly to give this kid, Case Keenum, a shot to show what he can do over the next 3 weeks.
First down and 10. Here comes Tate. Finds a gap, and he fumbled the ball, but it was reeled in quickly by Andre Johnson. Tackled on the play, and then comes close to it. In fact, he did. He got a first down, gain of 10.
Watch number 50, Jarrell Freeman. Look at the pursuit right there. Now watch the karate chop. Now that's playing football. You just seek and destroy, ripping that ball out. And luckily for Ben Tate, one of his teammates on the offense was able to fall on it.
Tate has fumbled 4 times this season. He's lost 2. That was number 4 right there. Here's a first and 10 after the Joseph interception. And they've got Andre Johnson upended by LaRon Landry. It's a quick slant of 9. And a first down to the 31-yard line. Well, close to a first down. With the playoff races heating up, download NFL Mobile to get live video access to exclusive premium content on your smartphone. Call ** NFL to download or go to NFL.com/mobile to learn more. Message and data rates apply. Catch number 96 for Andre Johnson. That'd bring a smile to my face too. Second down and 1. Back less than 1. Dennis Johnson wrapped up, brought down. He's a rookie free agent out of Arkansas. Devoured inside, and there was no gain on the play.
Well, Case Keenum has been known to get off to a great start. You talked about it, Kevin, that Week 9 contest. Got these Texans off to a 21-3 start at halftime, and of course lit it up with Andre Johnson having 200 yards receiving in that game. And what they have to do is carry a good performance in the first half over to a good performance into the second half. Put together 4 quarters to snap an 11-game losing streak.
How about that? It came back from an 18-point deficit to win that game.
Yeah. That's Andrew Luck. Can't count him out.
You gotta believe it. Here comes Keenum on 3rd and 1. Johnson, nice defensive play. They came through, and it was LaRon Landry, who was a Pro Bowler a season ago with the Jets, comes up with a nice one.
The mobility of Case Keenum getting out on the perimeter. So he wanted to go down the field, as you see Landry breaking up that play. He wanted Andre Johnson down the field. They had it well defended, so he tried to drop it off to Johnson, and then Landry was able to break up the play. If Keenum had to tuck that one and ran it, might have picked up a first down.
Might have. There's Randy Bullock, who has made 8 consecutive field goals. This is a 49-yarder, and it is good from 49. Wade Phillips and his Texans on the board. They cash in on the interception by Jonathan Joseph. You mentioned this in the pregame about this new special teams coach.
Bob Legashevsky, right? And he's the guy that had been an assistant to the previous special teams coach, Joe Marciano, who had been with the team since their inception in 2002. And Wade Phillips already putting his stamp on this football team, making changes at that position.
Cassius Vaughn is deep back, as is Tashard Choice, who gets this one. Even around a little bit, walking the tightrope, and runs out of real estate, but a nice return nonetheless for Tashard Choice. Signed off the street this week after running back Chris Rainey went on IR. Now is the time to catch up on episodes of Person of Interest. Jim Caviezel and Michael Emerson star Tuesday at 10/9 Central. Person of Interest, only CBS. 28-yard return, 1st and 10 for the Colts, who lead On a touchdown pass of 14 yards by Luck to Whalen.
Mark 51, 8 for 3.
The last time he was out there threw the interception to Jonathan Joseph. Tight end is back there, and they go on 1st and 10 outside to T.Y. Hilton, who is wrapped up immediately by Kareem Jackson. That's a gain of 8 on the play. We go to New York and James.
Good players are always welcome back.
Yeah, Michael Crabtree just got back a couple weeks ago, and now he's getting into the fray. Kaepernick's going to go out here, direct traffic, and complete this 4-yard touchdown pass, capping an 11-play drive. And it's right now San Francisco leading 7-0.
And we go back to excellent announcers. Kevin Harlan, Solomon Wilcox.
Thank you, James. 2nd down and 2. Niners trying to carve some room after they beat Seattle last week. Knocked down by Crick as they were going outside, maybe to Fleener. The Crick out in the way, doing his best impression of J.J. Watt.
Yeah, Jared Crick, he's been paying attention, staying awake in meetings, watching J.J. Watt deflect many of those passes at the line of scrimmage. Excellent timing on that play. He's got 15 tackles this season. Just one of the, I think, a number of budding players on this roster. They have some talented players in Houston.
There's a 3rd and 2. They're multiple in the secondary for the Texans. They've used 5. They've used 6. They have 5 right now. Here comes Luck and Hilton. And he's got the 1st down. A little catch and run. They're working on the defensive back, Brandon Harris, out of Miami. It's a gain of 6, and they'll move the chains.
Yeah, and Harris has to tighten up coverage there. It's man-to-man coverage. Look, they're going to blitz coming off this left side. You get the rollout by Luck. And that mobility allows him to get to the perimeter. It shortens up this throw over to T.Y. Hilton. Just a really good play on the blitz coming from that Texans defense. It looks like the Colts were prepared for it.
Richardson is in for the quarterback, Andrew Luck. He was in the Pro Bowl a season ago. 1st down and 10 in Texan territory. Whalen got by McCain and brought down by the linebacker Joe Mays. That's a catch and run of 9. And some nice rhythm developing for the Colts.
Yeah, you can tell that Andrew Luck's got a feel for it. He just flips it over to Whalen. But look, Bryce McCain got to make that tackle. You know, this game is sometimes goes beyond the scheme, and whatever plays are being called by the prospective coordinators, you just got to tackle the guy in the open field, get him on the ground, and create a really good situation for your defense.
2nd down and 2 for the current South Division champions. And it's Richardson, who came here in a trade in September, brought down by Brooks Reed and by Watt, and no gain on the play, which takes us to the end of the 1st. A 14-yard touchdown pass to Whalen, the difference. Going to start the 2nd quarter with Andrew Luck, who's gone 10 of 14 with a touchdown pass to his college teammate. Now teammates here with the Colts. 3rd down and 2. Solly's gone to 4 different receivers in the 1st quarter.
This is the 5th time they've had 3rd and 3 in the game. They've converted all 5 3rd down opportunities so far.
Doyle is the tight end, 84. He's going to give a block for Trent Richardson, but coming through, Joe Mays allowing just a gain of 1, so they don't get the 1st. Mays, the former Eagle, the former Bronco, coming to Houston, and they're at the 41.
Vance Joseph dialing up a run blitz. See Joe Mays knifing in, having a great anticipation of where they were going to run and who they were going to run with. And he dialed up a really nice one there to turn them back on 3rd down. Excellent play call by Vance Joseph. Now the defensive coordinator calling plays for this Texans defense today.
Wade Phillips had a lot of praise for Vance Joseph.
A very smart guy. He's done a really good job helping this defense when they first arrived to help them become one of the top defensive units in the National Football League.
McAfee watches a kick into the end zone. Keyshawn Martin was back there for the Texans. It's a 41-yard punt, and so it is out to the 20 with the 1st and 10. And coming up on the Verizon halftime report from New York, JB, Dan, Shannon Boomer, and Coach Bill Cowher with the latest NFL scores and highlights. That's coming up on the Verizon halftime report. A look at Chuck Pagano. We talked to him this week, and we both were talking about it's great to see him in such great health, and he appreciates this, people not forgetting what he went through, and will still continue to battle here.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. And these players, they understand, and I think it helped sort of solidify the relationship they have with their head coach and just how hard they play for Chuck Pagano.
So here come the Texans. Got a 49-yard field goal Last time, and here's a 1st and 10 handoff going to Tate, banging his way into Hughes and Landry, and picks up 7, going right between the tackles.
You know, both of these teams, I think it's a priority that they're able to run the football. Without Arian Foster, Wade Phillips now, Houston Texans, I think it has hindered the offense, where they've only averaged 17 points a game during this 11-game losing streak. When they can't run it, they lose the ability for play-action passes, the bootlegs and the dragging of tight ends down the field. So much of their offense is lost when they're unable to run it.
Johnson is in, 2nd down and 3, the fake to him, and here comes Verner, their top draft pick. It's intercepted. Darius Butler picks it off. The quarterback brings him down. For Butler, it's his 3rd interception.
Interception each of his last 5 games. He goes late to Andre Johnson. See Johnson waiting on it, and he threw it way late when Butler is in excellent position. You can't put the ball there in harm's way, and Butler just knifes underneath to come up with an excellent interception. Case Keenum got to do a better job of protecting the football.
His last interception was back on October 6th, and that was against Seattle. Here comes up with a big one right there. At the 17 of Houston, it's a 1st and 10 for Luck and the Colts with Richardson in the backfield. Right to work, the pressure getting by the right guard. Underthrows his receiver with Joseph covering. T.Y. Hilton, 2nd down and 10.
This game already, a couple of turnovers, interceptions, but this one is huge because it puts the Colts in scoring position. Case Keenum, he's a young quarterback, and they're going to give him these final 3 games to play. But even here today, and Wade Phillips talked about it, we got to let him play through some of these situations, but you can't allow him to dig a hole for your football team in the early going of this game today.
The owner told us he was going to play the next handful of games.
Yeah, it's almost as if the decision has been made. There's no turning back.
They're going to have a high pick, obviously. 2nd down and 10. Here comes Richardson, who was hit hard on the play by Darryl Sharpton, the leading tackler, replacing the injured Brian Cushing. It's a gain of 2 down to the 15.
As you take a look at the Texans defense and Antonio Smith, he told us, he said he was so impressed by what the owner, Bob McNair, said to the players when he addressed the team. He says, we want to win every last one of these final 3 games. They're not interested in the 1st overall pick in the 2014 draft. They're interested in winning games, and you just love the fact that the owner has set a precedent for this team. Winning is a priority in Houston.
Yeah, the players, that's what they wanted to hear.
Oh, absolutely. No one wants to hear, yeah, we're playing for the 1st overall pick.
3rd down and 8 after the Indy interception. Caught by Doyle, hit by Mays, wrapped up by Watt. They lose 4. So Jack Doyle, who's a rookie free agent, couldn't find any running space. He's at the 19-yard line. Mays and Watt made it happen. And so the defense does not allow a touchdown. The Colts now will go for 3.
They're swarming on defense. Look at the pressure in the face of Andrew Luck. Then the hit there by Joe Mays. This doesn't look like a 2-11 football team, and I think they heard their owner, Bob McNair. We want to play to win.
And that was a Sonos hit right there. 37-yard field goal by Adam Vinatieri, and it is 10-3. With the Colts, 3 minutes gone in the 2nd quarter. Flag is thrown. There's some shoving. And this usually happens when you're pretty familiar. There's Chairless getting in there if you're familiar with your opponent. But sometimes in the holiday season, you wrap your arm around the official and say,
after the play was over, personal foul, unnecessary roughness, Indianapolis, number 75, with a headbutt. The 15-yard penalty will be enforced on the kickoff.
That's Mike McGlynn, who's getting the start today because of injuries to the center, Samson Satelli. Nonetheless, the field goal, and it's a 7-point lead for the Colts. Well, this holiday season is part of the league's commitment to celebrate and honor alumni players. NFL Homecoming spotlights the return of legends to stadiums across the country and the fans whose unwavering support makes stadiums feel just like home. And to access exclusive content and hear legends in their own words, visit NFL.com/homecoming. Those are about as big a legends as you can get. Marshall Faulk and Eric Dickerson, my goodness. Here's the kickoff after the 37-yard field goal and the ensuing penalty. Dennis Johnson was hit hard on the play and brought down by Gordy, Josh Gordy. 32-yard return. Dickerson and Falk. How about Eric Dickerson? Came here in a trade. He played with the Colts from 87 to 91. He was inducted into Pro Football's Hall of Fame in 1999. And the other player, Marshall Falk, was a Colt from 94 to 98. He was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2011. So after the 37-yard field goal by the Colts off of an interception by Darius Butler, here comes Keenum off to Tate on first down and 10. Brown trying to offer a block, and out of bounds he's ushered. Vontae Davis is the one to do the throwing out of bounds on a gain of 3 up to the 46-yard line.
Yeah, and a little irony between Eric Dickerson and Marshall Falk. Both played 5 seasons for the Indianapolis Colts. Dickerson was traded from, of course, he was traded from the Rams to the Indianapolis Colts, and then Marshall Falk was traded from the Colts to the Rams. So they switched teams, and both played 5 seasons here in Indy.
With a second down and 7, here comes Tate. There's a block by Smelly and a tackle made by Eric Walden on a gain of 11 for Brandon Tate, who is playing for a new contract. He's free to go after this year. So although he's got solely the 4 cracked ribs, he's out there gutting it through.
Yeah, he's going to be an unrestricted free agent at the end of this year. So will Antonio Smith. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with new coaching staff possibly coming in. Wade Phillips, of course, who interviewed to become the permanent head coach, but a lot of uncertainty as to which players they're going to keep and which ones who may depart.
From the Colt 43, it's a first and 10. Jones a block for Tate. He gets a little bit of running room and is brought down by LaRon Landry, who picks up Tate after a gain of 4 down to the 39-yard line. We're talking about Wade Phillips, and how do you right now, what are the odds? We know he's going to interview with Bob McNair.
Well, the thing is, he has done a wonderful job in every place where he has been. His winning percentage is right around 58, 59% as a head coach. Been with 6 different teams, and I'm sure Bob McNair is going to weigh all possibilities so this team can hit the ground running in 2014.
Second down and 6. It's Dennis Johnson who submarines, and there goes a flag. He's down to the 35-yard line on a gain of 4. And this is part of his resume right here, what he sells to Bob McNair and the Texans.
Yeah, as you can see, his overall record, 57%. Of course, that's how many games he's won. He talked about the fact, the postseason record isn't that great. He says, but hey, the last time Buffalo went to the postseason, he was their head coach. The last time the Dallas Cowboys played in the postseason, Wade Phillips was their head coach. He knows the personnel in Houston very well, and so certainly you don't have to bridge that gap with a new head coach coming in, trying to learn what the players do well in terms of their strengths and weaknesses.
Texans had a holding penalty, loss of 10, so it's 2nd and 16. Nothing to Hopkins yet as we've been watching the pass selection of Case Keenum. A couple good jobs open in the state of Texas, including the Longhorn program down in Austin.
Yeah, and this Houston Texans, I think head coaching position is one of the more coveted ones with an owner like Bob McNabb, a general manager, and Rick Smith. I think everything's in place to be a winner right away.
Second down and 16. Batted down. And the big man, was it Redding who got that ball, was picked up by Verner. He takes it to the 32. Shoving after the play. They call it incomplete, and big Corey Redding from Houston, Texas, swats it away.
There he is right there. Big number 90, can't miss him. Look at now. If you don't get penetration, that's what you do. You elevate and bat that ball down. The pass from Case Keenum. Now Keenum's facing a 3rd and 16. Last time threw an interception on the last possession. You don't want to turn this one over. Punting is not such a bad thing, even though you want to convert the 3rd and 16 opportunity.
Redding doing his best. Hakeem Olajuwon. Imitation 3rd and 16.
They're going to drop 8 in coverage, Kevin.
Tate is in. Round the left tackle block. It goes underneath. First catch made by Hopkins. First time they've thrown to him. Butler's around his ankle. They get to the 42. They pick up 7. It's now 4th down, and here comes the punting unit.
All Case Keenum could do is drop this one off. You throw the ball down the field when they're rushing only 3 linemen and 8 back in coverage. No way you can complete that pass. It's going to be very difficult.
That's the first time Hopkins has not converted a 3rd down into a first this season with the catch.
He had done 10 in a row?
Yes.
On all 3rd down receptions?
On top of your numbers, here's the punt from the 5 and into the end zone by Shane Leckler. And it's a 42-yard punt. There is a flag thrown at the 43-yard line. There's Jerome Boger. I mentioned earlier, I think he got swallowed up, and it might happen again. It is a hold. Officiated Super Bowl 47 in New Orleans this past February. Did a good job. Won by Baltimore. I don't know if we're going to take this here because Leckler is one of the best at punting inside the 10. He has punted 69 times. 26 of them have been inside the 20, a lot inside the 10. Kid who went to Texas A&M.
And it did roll out of the back of the end zone, right? So it's going to be on the 20. Am I correct?
Well, let's find out here. There's a lot of discussion.
Before the kick, holding, offense, number 46. That penalty is declined.
Right, okay.
The result of the play is a touchback, 1st and 10 at the 20.
That's right. You take the ball at the 20 when you're playing with Shane Leckler because he could easily pin you deep inside your own territory. We'll be back with more Andrew Luck right after this.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by T-Mobile. Unleash. Bud Light, official beer sponsor of the NFL. And by Kelley Blue Book. Everything you need to make a smart new car decision is at KBB.com.
Now we're back in Indy Thursday on CBS. It's no mystery why Elementary is a hit. Johnny Lee Miller and Lucy Liu star in Elementary. Thursday at 10, 9 Central. Only CBS. We thought the ball was going to be at the 20. There was a further conversation with Jerome Boger. See that JS there? Most of you know Jerry Seaman passed away a couple weeks ago. He was one of the most historic figures, I think, in officiating. Not only was an official for many big games on the field, but then ran the office from New York and was in charge of officiating. Well liked by so many. A former school teacher in the Minneapolis area.
One of the best ever.
And his son is officiating in the NFL.
Touchback spot at the 20 to the 30-yard line. 1st down, Indianapolis.
The hold was accepted, and so that's why they put it at the 30-yard line, we are told. Donald Brown, the running back for the Indianapolis Colts, has left the field. He has gone to the locker room with a stinger. Thus, that guy, Trent Richardson, will be the running back. Tashard Choice will back him up, and on 1st and 10, he tries to carve his way, and it's a gain of 2, which is about his average. And the tackle was made up the middle by Terrell McClain.
Yeah, you mentioned the 2 yards per carry average. That's not good. And Trent Richardson is a former 3rd overall pick in last year's draft. Donald Brown already had 5 carries today, averaging almost 8 yards per carry. So Richardson's got to pick it up if this offense is going to stay on track today.
Richardson has been very effective as catching out of the backfield like last week with 6 receptions. 2nd down and 8 here for Luck. And they're going deep, and he's got Hilton. A flag was thrown out of bounds. He is pushed by Jonathan Joseph. The gain right now to the 27-yard line, a 41-yard pickup, and the flag appears to be on the Texans.
Prior to the pass, holding, defense, number 24. That penalty is declined. The result of the play, 1st down.
And a 41-yard pickup.
When you play a lot of man-to-man coverage, you're going to give them opportunities to make plays. You can see Joseph matched up holding right there. But watch Hilton adjust to the ball. Separation and then catching that ball. Well-timed throw. This is just Luck throwing Hilton open to the open area on the field. It's just really good chemistry between the receiver and quarterback.
1st down and 10 from the 27-yard line. Luck has already thrown a 14-yard touchdown pass today. With time and deep and broken up. Beautiful. That's a flag thrown on Sharpton. And what appeared to be some pretty good coverage on the tight end, Kobe Fleener.
I didn't see where there was a penalty there unless he was holding while Fleener was running down the field. But as the ball arrived, I thought he had timed it up perfectly.
I thought he
to
had
bat it away.
Personal foul, pass interference, defense, number 51, not playing the ball. The foul occurred in the end zone, 1st down at the 1-yard line.
Was there a contact? Okay, look. Oh, yeah, there's contact before the arrival of the ball. I could see why they would call that pass interference. You can see Vance Joseph calling the plays today. This team plays a lot of man-to-man coverage. Andrew Luck doesn't even have to read a defense. once he saw Fleener matched up against a linebacker, Kevin, in space, he's going to go there every single time. I think you've got to play a little bit more zone for this Texans defense and force the quarterback to think and hold on to the football.
25-yard penalty in essence. First and goal from the 2. Richardson out of Alabama. Sharpton got a hand on him. There you see Watt. There you see Mays. Loss of 2 on the play. This trade has not been looked on favorably. It is kind of backfired in a way for the Colts, who lost Ahmad Bradshaw, so there was a body to replace him, but not the production.
Yeah, and you can see the goal-to-go production and not really good, where they're 26th in the National Football League, and that's maybe where Richardson was supposed to help. They lose Vic Ballard. They lose Ahmad Bradshaw. Now Donald Brown out. Sooner or later, yes, he absolutely have to produce because they gave up next year's first-round pick to get him.
Second down and goal at the 4-yard line. Somebody moved, and that was Fleener, 80 on the near side. False start.
False start. Offense, number 80. 5-yard penalty. Still second down.
You got Fleener on the movement. Got to hold your water. You know, this Houston Texans defense, they've struggled all season long, Kevin, down inside the red zone, ranked dead last in red zone defense. And I'm sure Chuck Pagano said, hey, penalties we've got to do away with. We've got to be able to turn this red zone possession, not just into points by way of a field goal. They want a touchdown here. Man-to-man coverage up top, excuse me.
Second down and goal at the 9. Shuffle pass. Richardson, touchdown, hurdling his way. 9-yard touchdown pass. The second by Luck today.
What a play. That's the red zone defense's struggle. They caught him in man-to-man coverage. That's why I wanted to point it out, because when you're locked up in man-to-man, particularly on the perimeter, and all you do is want to go rush the quarterback. See, look, everyone's locked up in man-to-man here, and every guy turned out. And so that's why they run it up inside. KO can't get back to make the tackle because he's trying to help those corners in man-to-man coverage to the outside. A well-timed play by the offensive play caller, Pep Hamilton, for the Colts.
And now 17-3 with a Vinatieri extra point and 7:03 to play in the second. Hilton caught a 41-yard pass, and then the shuffle pass. 9 yards. Luck to Richardson. Like we were talking about with the 6 catches last week against Cincinnati, he has been more effective catching the ball out of the backfield than running the football.
Absolutely, and that constitutes as a pass, does it not?
Right.
From behind the line of scrimmage.
Johnson will take it from 2 yards deep. Nice block right there. And out he goes, brought down by Studebaker. Kareem, a fellow running back, is the one who gave him that little door to go through. 23-yard return.
During the return, illegal block in the back. Receiving team, number 50. Half the distance to the goal. Houston keeps the ball. First down.
Kevin, teams have really locked in on this Houston Texans defense, playing man-to-man down inside the red zone. Here you're going to see just a pick screen, a rub on the outside corner, allowing Demarius Moore to get inside and catch a touchdown. Here again, inside the red zone, they're in man-to-man coverage. Watch how they rub and scheme them. And they'll just pick the inside corner, allowing Andre Roberts to get up top. Teams are focusing in on the fact that the Texans are playing man-to-man down inside the red zone and taking advantage of it. We saw it on the touchdown to Trent Richardson.
Here comes Ben Tate on first down and 10 with the block from Jones, and brought down by Jarrell Freeman, and the weaving run of 4 takes him to the 11-yard line. Ben Tate out of Auburn, over 700 yards on the season. And down is Montori Hughes, who played last week after being inactive the previous 3 games. The rookie from Tennessee Martin. We have an injury timeout in Indy. 6:51 to play in the half.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Charles Schwab and by Buffalo Wild Wings. Wings, beer, sports.
Well, Montori Hughes just walked off under his own power. Good to see. Now on the line, Ricardo Matthews and Josh Chapman for the Colts. Wade Smith is out for right now. Ben Jones taking his place on the offensive line for the Texans. They got Ben Tate in the backfield and second down and 6. And Tate, the block from Brooks, and riding him down is Walden as he crosses the 20 and near the 21 with a burst of 9 for Ben Tate. And he's got the first down for the Texans.
And right now, this Houston Texans offense, they're looking for a spark. You can see Tate, 9 carries, over 50 yards rushing so far in the game. They've got to get the run game going. But, you know, when they let go of Gary Kubiak, they did not just let go of the head coach. They also let go of their offensive play caller.
He did indeed.
So one might wonder is how Rick Dennison is doing with that post today.
In the pistol, first down and 10. And that was another throw toward Andre Johnson. He's caught one ball today that he had right in those gloved hands of his. He had a 9-yard gain before. It dropped right there. Solid second down and 10 for the Texans.
Yep, and Rick Dennison calling those plays from on high today as the offensive coordinator. And he had been in that post as offensive coordinator, but in this system, the head coach, it was Kubiak who was actually calling the plays on game day.
Dennison has a history with the Denver Broncos, much like Kubiak had. Second down and 10. Another drop on consecutive plays. I've never seen that before from him.
Never seen it, even though you got to give Vontae Davis credit for really contesting and getting up on and being aggressive with Andre Johnson. And watches the ball is coming in when people are tugging and grabbing at your arm. Still got to be able to haul it in. We've seen Andre Johnson do that on so many occasions. What did Chuck Pagano tell us? He said, I coached at Miami when he was a wide receiver there. I've seen him just murder defensive backs year in and year out.
Colts have 5 in their secondary. Third down and 10 for Case Keenum at his own 20. Jones moved the left guard. Wow. Another penalty. 7 on Houston.
False start. Offense, number 60. 5-yard penalty. Still third down.
We know about the penalties they racked up last week, Solomon. The Houston Texans had, as you mentioned, 177 penalty yards in the Thursday game against Jacksonville.
Yeah, so many unforced errors, and it really does derail your chance of winning and competing in football games. They spent the week practicing with officials there just so they can sort of clean up some of these undisciplined moments.
I say 7-8 for 72 yards penalty-wise. Third and 15, Keenum. And right on the money and in stride to the tight end, Ryan Griffin, taking the place of the injured Garrett Graham. It's a gain of 22 on 3rd and 15, up to the 37.
How about Dennison on high, dialing up plays like this? It's just a really nice play. It's going to be right down the middle there. And that's what you've got to do. You've got to be able to scheme and plan to get your receivers open down the field. Matched up one-on-one against Antoine Bethea, beats him inside, comes over and make the catch on the strike from King.
Ben Tate on 1st and 10. Mathis jumping on his back and bringing him down to the 42-yard line on a gain of 6 for the Texans, who have the number 11 offense coming into today in the NFL.
Yeah, I think the key for this offense to really be successful on 1st and 2nd down, as Wade Phillips looks on. But you get a run like that, you can see they have great play distribution. 11 runs, 11 passes, setting up 2nd and 4 opportunity on a 6-yard run from Tate.
Jones the fullback, 2nd down long 4. Ben Tate will follow the blocking, and then it closes. It just wasn't enough there. And Bethea looks like he was the first guy to stick his head in there and make the stop. It's a loss of a yard, so 3rd down and about 5. Just wrapping up the tight end situation for the Texans. They lost Owen Daniels, of course, to a fractured fibula. He is practicing, but his return has been delayed yet another week. We know that Graham is out. He was a game-time decision, having a career year, hamstring issue. So the only healthy tight end they got right now, Ryan Griffin. Keenum on 3rd and 5. Nice time. There's the aforementioned tight end once again, Griffin. 2nd catch on the drive, picks up 8, had a gain of 22 before. That is another Texan first down, and Solly up to the 49.
Yeah, Kevin, you do a really good job of just sort of articulating what's going on with these tight ends, because they are a real big part of what the Texans do on offense. In terms of pass distribution from Case Keenum, they really help the offense stay on schedule. They're part of blockers in the running game and a huge part of being receivers in the passing game.
Jones is out now as the guard. Back in Brooks. 1st and 10. Ben Tate jumping on his back. Leading tackle, Jarrell Freeman. A gain of 3 to the 47-yard line of Indianapolis.
Once again, they're getting the run game going, especially on first down. They're dialing up those run plays, and what you're going to get eventually is some of those bootleg passes from the quarterback, Case Keenum, using his athletic ability to get on the perimeter of the defense where he can get play-action pass opportunities. It starts with Bente pounding the run game so Dennison can dial up those play-action pass plays down the field to Andre Johnson.
Second down and 7, like you're talking about. And they go deep, and it's picked off again! And again, Darius Butler. Butler with his second interception today off of quarterback Case Keenum. 24-yard return, and all you can do is shake your head with another turnover by the Texans.
You know, it's going to be play action, and the Colts are dialed in. They know that Keenum is going to look to Andre Johnson every time they want to make a play right here. And then watch Darius, watch him, number 22. Watch how he just knifed underneath to pick that one off. He laid off long enough to make Case Keenum think that Johnson was an opportunity, make him think he's open. See how he lays back and then he breaks on it right away. That's stealing one and reading the quarterback's mail, more importantly, understanding his tendencies.
So Keenum, with now 6 interceptions on the season, here is a 1st and 10. Luck with a little play action. And the pressure coming, and outside he goes with an incomplete pass, and looking for his tight end, Jack Doyle. Rookie free agent out of Western Carolina. But, you know, they've kind of staked the claim with Keenum. The owners we just talked about moments ago has said this guy's going to start for us the rest of the year.
Yeah, I think they want to find out if they have anything with him, even as a backup. And it pretty much says that maybe the ship has sailed on the relationship they've had with their longtime quarterback in Matt Schaub. And so once you made the decision that Schaub isn't coming back, and you say, okay, we're going to give Keenum 3 games to prove to us if he can at least be our backup moving forward. I think early on he's showing some signs that he's struggling.
Second down and 10, and they go to Rodgers, who stiff arms his way into Bryce McCain, forced out of bounds by Jonathan Joseph. And Derrick Rodgers out of Tennessee Tech, and a rookie, a 12-yard catch and run down to the 32 of Houston.
In the meantime, Andrew Luck and his offense, they're humming right along. They talked about getting off to that fast start, Kevin, and I think they've done just that. They've run it very well, and Andrew Luck is just always making good plays. Did have 1 interception early on in the game, but he's right back in rhythm.
Well, they won the AFC South division title last week, even though they lost in Cincinnati. 1st and 10. Richardson walked up. Sometimes, you know, I know he's being criticized. He picks up a yard, maybe 2 right there, and coming through with the stop on the defensive line for the Houston Texans was Mitchell. But there just isn't sometimes a lot of room, and we'll pick up that conversation when we come back as we reach the 2-minute warning on CBS. You see the timeout story. 2-minute warning, 2nd down and 9. Butler just picked off Case Keenum. 2nd Butler interception today. On the 31-yard line of the Houston Texans, here comes Andrew Luck. Pocket crumbles and throws it down and up the middle. He had number 99 right in his grill, J.J. Watt, who leads the NFL in quarterback hurries. And he's got a ton of sacks, 9 coming into today.
You notice, though, Luck is such a strong physical presence, even with a talented, huge defender like Watt bearing down on him. Look, he still gets rid of that ball, throwing it forward, doesn't take the sack, nor does he commit a turnover there. Just real presence of mind of how to get rid of the ball to avoid the disastrous play.
A lot like Roethlisberger in some ways, huh?
Big, physical, strong, and mobile.
Antonio Smith told you that last night. 3rd down and 9. Richardson, screen pass. Rodgers, who had his face mask held by Kareem Jackson on the sideline, and picks up 6 right there. 4th down and 3, and they'll try for 3.
Well, it does improve their field goal range here. This is where Richardson, and you mentioned it, Kevin, where he has not been a disappointment. His ability to catch the ball out of the backfield, I think he catches the ball better than what most people are aware of, and of course he can break tackles out in space.
He's got 3 catches today for 33 yards already.
I think they should use him more in that way.
Here's a 43-yard field goal by Adam Vinatieri right down the middle of Main Street. 20-3, another field goal. He knocked one through from 37. that good from 43. They cash in on the Butler interception off of Case Keenum. The nice lead here before halftime. This week, don't miss the show that's in a league by itself with guys who take on all 32 teams and each other every single week. James Brown, Phil Simms, and Chris Collinsworth with the artistry of NFL films inside the NFL. The show the pros watch, Wednesday at 9, only on Showtime. Twice the Colts have found themselves on a short field. Twice they've had to settle for just field goals.
Yeah, but the defense is making plays, creating turnovers. I think Pagano's got to be happy with the way his team's gotten off to that fast start.
Johnson about 8 yards deep, gets the McAfee kickoff and takes it the other way and finds himself in the grasp of a Josh McNary tackle on special teams, a kid who played at Army. 31-yard return. Johnson losing his shoe.
Well, Case Keenum has struggled here as of late, and today, a couple of interceptions early in the first half. Of course, Darius Butler's made him pay for some errant passes in this game today. Remember, Keenum started off his first 3 games of his career not having thrown any interceptions, and now he's thrown an interception in each of his last 5 games.
Still has the 3 timeouts. Glenn Jones is at the left guard. The Myers snap and caught. Andre Johnson drilled on the play by Cavell Connor. He's been active the last 3 games for the Colts on defense at linebacker. That is a gain of 6, and he's up to the 30-yard line.
You know, sometimes when you're trying to snap an 11-game losing streak, you need everything to go right. For your quarterback and receivers, got to catch the ball.
Keenum 2nd and 4. The tight end with the grab right there. Ryan Griffin, who came into today with 5 catches. He picks up 8 yards right there. First down to the 38. Will step aside. 1:14 first half in Indy. Tight end Ryan Griffin catching 1 for 8 right there for the first. He's a rookie 6th-round pick out of UConn. With Graham injured, he gets the start and has played well. Underneath, Ben Tate on 1st and 10, brought down by Cavell Connor. And the catch and run of 9. He's up to the 47. It'll be 2nd down and 1 for the Texans.
Houston, the Texans got some kind of momentum on this drive. If they can isolate either Andre Johnson or Hopkins in one-on-one, take a shot down the field.
2nd down and 1 for Keenum. And Tate trying to rotate and grab that ball. I think one thing that the people have noticed, if you talk to scouts and watching the Texans as they've been studying this kid more and more, he's almost better sometimes outside the pocket, creating on the move, than he might be standing in there with a set play.
And that's the thing that he gives you that maybe Matt Schaub doesn't. I think Matt's going to do a better job getting the ball out on time and in rhythm, but if you have to extend the play, if pressure's in the face of the quarterback, you want Case Keenum in there because he can buy time with his mobility and athleticism. And once he extends the plays, then he's making big plays throwing the ball down the field.
He's thrown it twice into the Colts for interceptions. 3rd and 1. Dennis Johnson on the logo, and he's got the first down, digging his way in and trying to find some room. And Eric Walden, a couple of other Colts in there on the stop on a gain of 4 with a look at Wade Phillips, who teams up with Dennison and Joseph as his coordinators today with the revamped coaching staff for the Houston Texans, and a timeout taken. Coming up on the Verizon Halftime Report, join JB, Dan, Shannon, Boomer, and Coach Cowher for news, scores, and highlights in a busy Week 15 in the NFL. That's coming up on the Verizon Halftime Report from our CBS studios. There's a lot. You're so used to routine as a player. You got new coaches now, kind of a new way of doing things. And during practice, he's tried to pick up the pace and kind of lessen the mood a little bit, make it not as tense.
Tried to make the practices more fun, but obviously more game ready in terms of practicing real moments and situations that occur in games, and not doing special teams practice at the end, but intermittently during practice to try to create a realistic field.
Here's a 1st and 10. Buffet comes rocketing up the middle with a good-looking sack. It's the first one today by the Colts. Buffet comes shooting up the middle, his first sack of the season.
How about this for a realistic field? Look at him. Watch how he times this one up. He's come smoking right through that B gap coming off the right side. They don't pick him up. Even the athletic Keenum can't elude the talented Antoine blitzing Bethea. Look at that. Well-timed, well-orchestrated defensively by the Colts.
Bethea starting his 94th consecutive game today. And he has started overall 121. Great durability at that safety position. Number 1 in terms of that streak of starts in the NFL. The former 6th-round pick out of Howard 8 years ago. He's been a mainstay. He's been a part of the championship team here, and he continues to lead in the secondary.
He's played a lot of big games for this football
You're
team.
right. Ben Tate in the backfield, second down and 22, and they go underneath the Tate, who hits the deck hard, getting the way out of Connor. Gain of 6 to the 45, and a timeout by the Colts. Houston is out. Colts take one. 22 seconds to play. Now they're thinking ahead, and maybe we'll get the ball back and try for 3 again.
Yeah, you got them where they want them. 3rd and long. Might as well call that timeout. And if you can make a play here, you may have an opportunity to put more points on the board.
Well, we told you at the top of the broadcast, the Colts, even though they lost last week, have claimed the South Crown. First title in the division since 2010. So they're in, the only team that has won a division so far. Denver is in and could win the crown in the West. If a couple things happen, you see the wild card picture in the AFC.
Yeah, and Pagano's message to his team after the loss last week in Cincinnati was one thing. Hey, right now we're the only team that can say we are division winners. He said we're not going to apologize for losing and still claiming a division title.
Or should they? 3rd and 16. And incomplete. They had Keyshawn Martin close, and they also had DeAndre Hopkins close, but the coverage was there. The pass falls incomplete. 4th and 16. They will punt.
Robert Mathis is just 1 sack shy of breaking the all-time record for the franchise held by Dwight Freeney. Look at that. Just 1 step away as he was blocked by Dwayne Brown. I think we saw Freeney somewhere in the building. One might wonder after that Thursday night win over Denver, he now plays for the San Diego Chargers. If he's in town to kind of honor his good friend Robert Mathis, should he break the record.
So 4th and 16. Indy has a timeout. Houston is out. 11 consecutive losses for the Texans. They've changed head coaches. They lost to Jacksonville last Thursday, a game you worked for NFL Network, and so you've seen this team up close. We've had a lot of Texan games ourselves. We said last time they won was 3 months ago today, and Matt Schaub was at the helm then.
Yeah, you and I were at that game, right?
It was against Tennessee Titans. Yep. Leckler to punt. Griff Whalen is back, and from his own 13-yard line. And here comes the cavalcade of defensive stoppers making the move on special teams. 10-yard return after the 42-yard punt.
Make no doubt about it. Andrew Luck is the straw that stirs the drink here in Indy. Getting the ball out quick, allowing his weapons run after catch opportunities. Just a quick bubble screen. One after another to Whalen, then to Hilton, and then over to Dayrick Rogers. Creating yards after the catch. Just allowing this offense to stay in rhythm and for him to have a high completion percentage.
They'll sit on it. That'll take us to halftime here in Indianapolis. 2 touchdown passes in the first half by Andrew Luck. 1 of 14 yards to Whalen. 1 of 9 yards on a shuffle pass to the running back Trent Richardson. Case Keenum, in his 8th career NFL start, has thrown 2 first-half interceptions, and Wade Phillips tries to right the ship after he takes over as an interim head coach for the fired Gary Kubiak. Colts are headed to the playoffs, trying to tighten the screws and get things right as they go to the postseason. It's intercepted. Darius Butler picks it off. Richardson, touchdown, hurdling his way. 9-yard touchdown pass. Here at halftime, the Colts on top of the Houston Texans 20-3 with Colt quarterback Andrew Luck in firm control.
Check out. Hold on. 36. Right now.
Football like you've never heard it. Presented to you by Sonos. With a look at Luck and also Trent Richardson on the back end of that with a nice catch and a little flip, 9 yards, and part of the story for the Colts in what was a pretty impressive first half offensively.
No, absolutely. And they came out and they got off to that fast start that they said they wanted to get off to, and it was led by Andrew Luck. He was very impressive to begin this game, and it really started with his ability to control the tempo and tenor of the ballgame, throwing strikes to Griff Whalen for a touchdown, and then his mobility to extend the third down and create a new set And then how about the flip to Trent Richardson, who's been a really good receiver coming out of the backfield and getting into the end zone. And that's allowed them to get off to a good start. You have to credit the 2 interceptions by Darius Butler to put Andrew Luck in this offense on the short field, and boy, have they taken advantage of it.
The Texans 2 turnovers, both in their own territory, Solomon, and 8 penalties to boot after all those penalties and all those yards last week.
Yeah, Case Keenum struggling, and defense making the young quarterback learn on the job as he replaces Matt Schaub at quarterback.
Dennis Johnson watches it bounce away and through our first 2 quarters. 30 minutes of football. Here are some of the numbers.
You can see the passing yards, but I love the fact that the Colts are starting to get something in their running game. Donald Brown had to leave the game. He was off to averaging 8 yards per carry running the ball. Trent Richardson has come in, done a good job catching it out of the backfield. The 1 turnover, of course, is the 1 blemish for the Indianapolis Colts.
So let's watch Case Keenum, who's in the pistol formation. Ben Tate is his back, and he gets the call on 1st down and 10. It looked like Corey Redding. He played his college ball at Texas, 11 years out of Austin, with a gain of 3 in the play to the 23-yard line.
How about this? Coming out in that pistol formation, you don't think Case Keenum will keep it and run it? It's a new look. Maybe one of those second-half adjustments that Wade Phillips wants from this football team. Go back to Week 9 against the Colts. The Texans were outscored in that second half 24-3 as they lost that game after getting out to a 21-3 lead to start the game.
With a 2nd down and 7 for Keenum. Almost picked off for a 3rd time by Butler. He said, I had it right in my mitts.
If he catches this, he's going to get another pick 6 against this defense. Take a look at it. It's over to the right side of Keenum. He goes late out there. And look, that ball is almost intercepted. There's something about this offense and something about the quarterbacks in it that throws these interceptions that can be returned for touchdown more often than we've seen any team all season long.
Boy, it has been a killer. Hopkins was in the sights that time of Case Keenum. Here's a 3rd and 7. And grabbed by a crossing route of Andre Johnson, picking up 3. It's 4th and 4. 3 and out on the first second-half possession, and a nice play by Butler, which continues what he did in the first half with 2 picks.
He's off to a good start. So is Vontae Davis. Clearly, they have a designed plan to take Andre Johnson out of the mix. Only 3 catches for 18 yards in today's game.
Leckler will punt. Number 1 gross all time in pro football. Griff Whalen from his own 21-yard line for the Indy Colts, and finding some room on the side, looking for a block from Hayward Bay, cuts in, and then riding him down is Victorian from behind. What a return. They're buddies from college at Stanford. We've mentioned it a couple times. Such a unique story. Whalen and the quarterback Luck, teammates there, 52-yard return.
Yeah, and it's good blocking, but Whalen just refused to go out of bounds. He's going to take what they give him. Look, he's outrunning a defender there, and then watch him just go up the sideline. No, I'm not going out. I'm not letting the punter get me out. And he's continuing to push. Josh Victorian, as you said, has to run him down. I love the fact that he stayed committed. He was bound and determined to not go out of bounds here. Look at that. Shane Leckler saying, I thought you were going to just do me a solid there and step out.
So from the 28, working on another short field, the Colts. 1st down and 10. Luck. And touch there by Reed, sliding to the 19, and picks up 8 yards on the play. Andrew Luck, who is in his 2nd season.
He does just enough to frustrate you defensively, just enough to move the chains and keep this offense humming. And it's not the splash plays that Andrew Luck makes that I think makes him so special. It's those small plays like that. 8-yard scramble to keep the offense on track, doing just enough to stay on the field.
Xavier Nixon remains the right guard. Wrights is out. Brown is out with a stinger. Richardson on the sweep, and again hurdles, and he lost the ball. And Shiloh Kao is over there along with Darryl Sharpton making the stop. And like we said, we've already seen 1 ball bobbled by Richardson. He loses 2 right there, and now on the season he has fumbled 5 times.
I've heard running back coaches tell running backs, stay on the ground. Unless you're diving for that pylon to score a touchdown. See, when you go airborne like that, you lose your power. You can't run over people, 5 feet in the air. But if you stay on the ground, you develop a nice base of power where you can power through those tackles. He nearly fumbled the ball there.
Hard to make moves when you're airborne.
There you go.
They're down in 4. And that was intended for Rodgers, and with maybe a hand or fingertip on it was Kareem Jackson defending on the edge there for the Texans.
Derrick Rodgers may be tipping off these routes a little bit. We already saw Jonathan Joseph pick off Andrew Luck on a route run by Derrick Rodgers. And that one, Kareem Jackson almost came away with an interception. He read the route perfectly.
Here's Adam Vinatieri with a 40-yard field goal try. 3 more on there, and 23 just goes inside the left upright. 23-3. The Colts early in the second half. Well, in late October, they lost wide receiver Reggie Wayne. It changed their offense. They've been staggering since. He's out there cheerleading, blew a knee. A historic figure in this franchise and in the NFL.
And a huge loss in way of leadership and overall production, and a weapon for Andrew Luck.
Johnson will bring it out. And a smelly block, and then he's brought down by Andy Studebaker. Studebaker made some headlines the other day, 29-yard return. He was driving along with his wife and I think his daughter, and he came across a motorist, number 58 there, former Kansas City Chief player. He stopped, he helped the kid with the car. They got the car to the shop, and then he took the kid on his errands and helped him, I think, with advice. The kid said he posted on Facebook, and Studebaker told no one. And finally, it was revealed to the media, and it was a nice little story. Nice, especially in this holiday season. Andy Studebaker from Wheaton. First down and 10 here from the 26-yard line. And Ben Tate has changed of direction before he was brought down by Freeman. Another fumble on the play. And they've got it back. Looked like it was recovered on the play by Greg Jones, the fullback.
That's the second time Ben Tate's put the ball on the ground and had his own teammate recover. Look, ball's going to be punched out, knocked out right there. And it's Jarrell Freeman who caused the first Ben Tate fumble. And this one's recovered by his teammate Greg Jones.
Second down and 7. Ben Tate in the pistol. Griffin got just enough of a block, and it's picked up by Grant Smelly, the former Alabama running back who spent a couple of games with Cleveland. A flag is thrown on the play. Smelly was activated just this week. Jack Byrne, the reserve tight end, was cut.
Holding, offense, number 84. 10-yard penalty, replay, second down.
Jake Byrne was let go, and that was on Ryan Griffin, who's had a pretty good day receiving, Solly, at the tight end position for Coach Wade Phillips.
Yeah, but he's got to do a better job of blocking without holding. These penalties really, I think, enable Case Keenum to get some kind of rhythm going on offense. If you're Rick Dennison on top and you're calling down plays, it's very tough when you have to go back now to 2nd and 17 after completion on the play.
2nd and 17, as Solomon just said, out to the 36-yard line is where they got to get for a first. Keenum, here comes Ferner, underneath the Ben Tate, wrapped up on the play by LaRon Landry on a gain of 5. Is this typical of a team that has had the woes the Texans have had this season? A lot of penalties, maybe a loss of concentration, whatever it might be?
Yeah, it's one of those things that I think it starts to snowball on you. While it wasn't a problem early on in the season, even though they were in the midst of maybe a 6-7 game losing streak, as it starts to rack up 10 and 11, is something that rears its ugly head. And while you try to fix one problem, another one pops up.
It is ugly, you're right. 11 consecutive losses. 3rd down and 12 for Case Keenum. Up the middle, Redding. Underneath, Dennis Johnson. Finally, Verner brings him down. And with a gain of 3, they got to punt the ball as he gets up to the 27-yard line.
You know, Greg Minuski is the defensive coordinator for these Indianapolis Colts. I can't say enough about the way they're swarming and tackling today. They're just contesting at every level. They're pressure in the face of Case Keenum in the backfield. He dumps it off, and they're just swarming and doing an excellent job of tackling at the back end.
Whalen is back, returned at 52 yards on the punt by Leckler. Second consecutive 3 and out. Up the middle they came, and there was a nice rush by Corey Lynch. Fair caught, 17-yard line. Hang time of 5-1-9. 56-yarder by Leckler. Here comes Luck, up by 20.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Southwest Airlines. Find our fares online only at southwest.com. Universal Pictures 47 Ronin, starring Keanu Reeves, in theaters Christmas Day. And by Bose, the official home audio sponsor of the NFL.
22 degrees outside in Indy. Aerial coverage of today's game is provided by MetLife. Boy, if you don't like blimps, I don't know what you like. First down and 10. From the 17-yard line, Luck. T.Y. Hilton. Wow, nice beat on it there by Jonathan Joseph, the two-time Pro Bowler. It's a loss of 4, and they'll throw him back to about the 12.
And you see that play made by Jonathan Joseph. We've seen J.J. Watt continue to play hard. Whitney Merciless. We talk about the core group of players that exist on this football team. DJ Swearinger. A lot of really talented players. So whoever's going to be the head coach of this football team, 2014, they're going to get a couple of high picks in the first and second round. A lot to work with if you're going to coach this football team.
Texans have 6 back there. Second down and 14 across the middle. Griff Whalen. KO on him along with Daryl Sharpton. Whalen has been terrific, and we told you before, activated yesterday, 18-yard gain.
They needed someone to step up. And the absence of Reggie Wayne, Griff Whalen. Of course, the former Stanford Cardinal, teammate of Andrew Luck, whether it's catching, returning punts, making plays all over the football field. We just saw him haul in his 4th reception of the game for 45 yards. So this kid's making plays all over the place.
Yeah, included in the punt returns there, a 52-yarder would set up the field goal the last time. 4 catches and 45 yards. Here's a 1st and 10. Richardson stumbling ahead. Grabbed on the play by Sharpton with a gain of a yard to the 32 as we take you to New York and James.
Cleveland fans have reason to be optimistic for the future.
Yeah, 10-play, 85-yard drive, culminated right here by Edwin Baker. First professional game, 2-yard run, and it's 17-17 in a big game for the Chicago Bears.
Bill Cowher, Pat Curran sitting here just delineating the reasons why they should be. Back to Kevin Harlan, Solomon Wilcox.
Boy, what's your read on that division right there? Everybody right at the top.
Yeah, Detroit playing with house money. Got a game tomorrow night against Baltimore. They win that one, boy. They'll really be in the driver's seat.
Second down and 9. This is Richardson. He got away from KO. He's hit by Swearinger. He's up near the 40-yard line on the run. Shy of a first down by about a yard as he picks up 8 on the play.
This is as good as I've seen Trent Richardson look all season long playing for these Indianapolis Colts. You asked earlier, you know, he's saying, hey, on some runs, he doesn't have as good a blocking. All I know is coming into today's game, Donald Brown averaging 5.2 yards per carry. Trent Richardson, 2.9. Behind the same offensive line, by the way.
Third down and 1. That interior of the line has just been a revolving door. Antonio Smith with a little bit of an early jump right there. But the interior line has been a concern. Injuries.
Defense, number 94. 5-yard penalty, first down.
Well, it's another penalty on the Texans. It gives them a first down.
What did they say when we talked to them yesterday? And even, of course, Wade Phillips is, you know, we've just been trying too hard. Everyone wants to win. Everyone's trying to do a little bit extra. And he told the guys, hey, just relax, breathe, have fun playing football. I think you saw the anxiety there that all these players carry in this disappointing season. Antonio Smith trying to do way too much, giving away free plays to this Indianapolis Colts offense.
Rodgers on the move. The tight end Doyle is the fullback. Havili injured, not playing today. 1st and 10. Looked like Luck wanted to go deep. Now goes inside. He's belted by Mays. That's a gain of 3. Richardson is the one to grab it. Mays is the one when he played with Denver that drilled Matt Schaub, you may recall, a couple years ago.
He's a physical player. I was really surprised when I saw Denver had released him during training camp. The Texans pick him up, and he's been a mainstay. Look at this. He knocks the ball loose, separating Trent Richardson from the ball. Richardson's going to fill that one come tomorrow morning.
So it was incomplete. One official ruled it a completion. Another said incomplete. They met. It is incomplete. 2nd and 10. Luck hits the deck. I would too. Ricky Samp gain of 4. Let's go back in time to Denver. It was an early season game when the Texans played there, and Matt Schaub was quarterbacking. And then here they came. 51 was Mays, and I mean, he was fine. He may have been suspended. I don't recall.
Look at that. That's almost a decapitation, right? Helmet flying one way, lacerated ear. Let's take a look at Sharpton teaming up with Mays in that linebacking core. They're fast, they're physical, but got to play within the rules.
3rd down and 6. How about our truck having that going back in the archives and bringing it up? We didn't even discuss it. Here's the blitz. Outside, Hilton drops the ball. The coverage by Bryce McCain on the near side. Incomplete. Now it's 4th down, and the Colts are going to punt.
T.Y.'s got to haul that one in. I just thought it was one heck of a throw from Andrew Luck. Look, under pressure, people flying around. Look, you put it out in front of him. Go for that with 2 hands. He stopped it with 1 hand, started to haul it in, and he got that head around, tried to run before he hauled in the catch.
So McAfee will punt, and Keyshawn Martin is deep back for the Houston Texans. Martin dangerous. He's the number 8 NFL kick return man. And he'll let this go, and it is in the end zone. With a touchback. Gordy down there trying to chase after that ball. 51-yard punt, 5:49 in the 3rd. Fantasy football fans, keep the excitement going all postseason with Playoff Challenge now with bigger cash prizes. See rules and sign up at cbssports.com/challenge. The punt by the Colts, 1st and 10. Not a lot of room there again for Ben Tate, Landry, and others there. It's no gain. They stay at the 20-yard line, 2nd down and 10. And this is the resume today for the Houston Texans.
Offense going nowhere fast. Take a look at it. What is that? 6 punts, a couple of interceptions, only 1 field goal. It's really dire for this football team. It's really tough for them to get any yards going against this Indianapolis Colts defense.
Seems like 6. 5 right now, and maybe another one coming up right now. 2nd down and 10. There's the block at the right tackle, and they go underneath, and it's caught by Hopkins. He's the rookie out of Clemson, number 1 pick, 46th reception, a gain on the play of 5 to the 25. Maybe 26. They're going to put it to 26. So 3rd down and a long 4.
Yeah, let's see if they can convert the 3rd and 4, Kevin. Now, I think you've got to get Keenum out of the pocket on the move. This offensive line has done a really good job of giving him protection, but there's been some times where he's been harassed and had to get rid of it quickly. They're coming.
3rd and 4 over the head of Ben Tate. In the meeting yesterday to you, he said, hey, what do I have to lose? Keenum did. I can play loose and free, but he's throwing 2 picks, and maybe he's losing the job.
Wasn't loose and free on that throw, even though the pass rush was coming. He had time to get this ball out of him, the jet protection, to Ben Tate, and just overthrows him as he was wide open.
Third consecutive 3 and out. Punt by Leckler. Studebaker coming through and just about got a hand on it. Whalen from the 19. Tackled there by Kareem. Backup running back who played with the Colts last season. 20-point lead for Indy.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Toyota. Let's go places. And by TD Ameritrade.
Well, when you come to beautiful downtown Indy, you can't help but not notice Monument Circle, one of the many great fixtures in this city that has hosted Super Bowl a couple of years ago, Final Fours, and the NFL Colts. 1st and 10, handoff goes to Trent Richardson. Not a whole lot there, no gain on the play. You know, we have, in the NFL family, we grow close to these coaches. We enjoy them. Yep. And we lost a friend who's now out of coaching, at least temporarily, Gary Kubiak, who was fired recently by the Houston Texans. Incredibly truthful, wonderful person to be around. I think everybody would agree, and the organization is well liked as anyone.
And he took out an ad I thought was just very classy of him and typical of Gary Kubiak, thanking all the fans there in Houston and of course the ownership in Houston. He's very appreciative of the 8 years he spent as their head coach.
2nd down and 10. The pocket crumbling and merciless chasing. Somehow staggering ahead and diving for the first down. That's the beauty of what this quarterback brings. He's running there for 12. Luck gets the first down for Indy. And he took out an advertisement, Gary did, and his wonderful wife, Rhonda. It appeared in the Sunday sports section of the Houston Chronicle. Just fired, and some very heartfelt words to, I think, everybody that he came in contact. Houston is his hometown, and he played at college ball at Texas A&M.
Yeah, he called the fans there in Houston the best in the National Football League. And it just shows what kind of class and the man that we've known for the 8 years he's been the head coach there. We consider him a dear friend.
Luck incomplete. Looking for Fleener, and that's the tough thing about this job. We enjoy Wade Phillips. We like Chuck Pagano. I mean, these guys and the public sometimes doesn't get a chance to be around them like we are.
And a guy like Gary Kubiak gives everything to the job, everything to the players, everything to the organization. Same could be said for Chuck Pagano. And, you know, that's why the players go out and play hard for him. And many of the players talked about it. Antonio Smith said he texted Gary Kubiak. Just wanted to know how his health was doing, how he was doing personally. It wasn't about the job. And he said, hey, you go tell the players that they've got to finish strong by going out and winning ball games.
51.
Luck with a second down and 10. Curling inside is Richardson with yet another grab. Swearinger was there. Gain of 5 and squirms to the 44.
As you take a look at Trent Richardson, there was an article came out today in I should say this week in the Indianapolis Star, where he spoke to Reggie Wayne and kind of said that, you know, when Donald Brown was named the starter ahead of him, he said this gave him a chance to kind of sit back, watch and learn. Felt like he was thrown in there maybe a little too soon. Had not learned the offense sufficiently to be productive running the football, and now gets another opportunity to return to that starting role with Donald Brown out of the game.
Third down and 5. Brown is out with the stinger. We haven't seen him since early in the contest. And deflected and almost picked off. KO was right there. Think of the Alabama running backs who come. Eddie Lacy, running back, rookie Green Bay. Mark Ingram, the Heisman Trophy winner with New Orleans. And this kid, and maybe he was a runner in college, he may be better suited for a guy that can block and run occasionally, but maybe more potent out of the backfield as a receiver.
I could see already, and you saw him his rookie year where he was very good catching the ball out of the backfield, and I think that's where he can make an immediate contribution. But let's face it, when they gave up a first-round pick, they wanted him to be the bell cow running the football.
They did. That's what Mike Holmgren and the folks at Cleveland thought when they drafted him. McAfee to punt, and Keyshawn Martin out of Michigan State. Up the middle he goes. Studebaker making the tackle along with Josh Gordy on a 12-yard return and a 42-yard punt. It's going to be a penalty flag. Jerome Boger's been busy today here in Indy. Indoors, thankfully.
During the kick, holding, receiving team, number 35. Half the distance to the goal from the end of the kick. Houston keeps the ball. First down.
Eddie Pleasant. Look at Trent Richardson. Came here in a mid-September trade from Cleveland. Well, tonight, it's the most secretive and controversial spy agency in the world. So why did the NSA open their doors and speak to 60 Minutes? Find out tonight. Only CBS. A punt by the Colts. Down to the 7. Johnson in the backfield. Keenum first and 10. Uh-oh! It's loose! He was whacked on the play. It's still bouncing around. It's a safety. Dwayne Brown, the left tackle, fell on the ball, and a flag afterwards.
Robert Mathis strikes. We said if you don't block him, he'll wreck your game plan. I just saw some wreckage.
Yeah.
Wow.
A safety by this Colts D. A sack for Mathis, who now breaks the all-time Colt record, passing his former teammate and friend, or current friend, Dwight
The rule on
Freeney.
the field is that the fumble was recovered in the end zone by the offense for a safety. After the play was over, unsportsmanlike conduct on the offense, number 76, for throwing the football at the opponent, taunting. That 15-yard penalty will be assessed from the 20-yard line, half the distance.
Another one of those penalties that Wade Phillips trying to rid this football team of. Case Keenum hit from behind by the pass rush of Dwight Freeney. Working against Brown. Look at this. Look at it. Keeps coming. Now Brown's going to recover it, but that's only after giving up the sack. But had he not recovered it, it would have been a touchdown for these Indianapolis Colts.
So now Zalman has 16 and a half sacks this season, #1 in the NFL. Freeney with 107. And with that, Mathis passes Freeney to go to 108 career sacks. They have just announced it here. And what a way to do it, to get a safety on a sack.
That's a signature move, isn't it? I remember a Sunday night game, he made that same move, sacking his former teammate, now Denver Bronco quarterback Peyton Manning, right in that same end zone. Much on this kind of play. Hitting Peyton Manning from the blind side and forcing that ball loose. And he's just having a ball head over heels in the end zone after the safety.
So the Texans in the process with Mathis making history for the Colts organization. And that book goes back to the days of Unitas and more, and go way, way back. And it does continue. Comes up with career number 108, season number 16 and a half, and a nice hug from the head coach. In the meantime, the 12th penalty against the Texans for 109 yards. Then 177 yards of penalties last week and 14. And Keenum has thrown 2 picks and been hit and coughed it up in the end zone.
Yeah, the Texans offense struggling here in the second half. 10 plays, 17 total yards, no first downs in the second half, as this thing is becoming a runaway for the Indianapolis Colts.
Leckler punts, Whalen retrieves, and the tackle is made by Albert Mack. 23-yard return. Whalen. Well, Saturday it's a Big 10, Big 12 throwdown. When Tom Izzo's Michigan State Spartans hit it off with Jonathan Holmes and the Texas Longhorns, all starting live 4 Eastern, right here on the home of the men's national championship game, CBS Sports. So the ball for the Colts is at their 44, where they have it 1st and 10.
Look at those 12 penalties in all 3 phases. Breakdown in all 3 areas. Offense, defense, and special teams.
End around, double reverse. Rodgers hit by Mays once, twice, and brought down. 1-yard gain, and he ran about 50 probably back and forth on those 2 handoffs.
Well, you got this kind of lead, you can break tendencies, right? You can go double reverse, start doing some things to kind of, skew those tendencies when your opponents are scouting you. And I always like to run a reverse to the wide side of the field. That one came back to the short side. Texans well prepared. Excuse me.
They were, yeah. 2nd down and 9. The thing with Houston, you don't notice any not hustle.
They play hard.
They do.
Just got to play smarter.
T.Y. Hilton outside, looking for a block from Hayworth Bay, and Bryce McCain kind of broke it up, and a gain of 2 on the play. We told you earlier that Levon Brazil is out, sore right foot, bruised last week, and so they're a little bit short at the wide receiver. Thus, Whalen was brought off the practice squad yesterday.
Absolutely. They have the rankings defensively. You talk about this team struggling. I think they play hard, Kevin, but remember last year they were plus 12 in terms of their turnover ratio for the Houston Texans. So far this year, they're minus 14. So that's a huge swing in terms of the giveaway takeaway.
All right, big difference. 3rd down and 7. Luck after crumbling, and he is whacked shy of the 47. Brought down. Brooks Reed was right there. First sack. They had 29. Think of this last year, this defense of the Texans. They had 29 forced turnovers. This year, they have 9. That's 29 versus 9.
Nothing equates to the win-loss record as much as turnovers. Your ability to take the ball away defensively and the ability to possess the ball and not turn it over on offense.
That's the end of the 3rd. Loss number 12 is looming for the Texans. On a knee there, talking with Luck, is Matt Hasselbeck, 15 years in the NFL. He's played just twice this season, but just think what a resource he is for Luck, who's only in his 2nd season.
And Matt's a great guy. I couldn't think of a better guy to have backing me up if I were a young quarterback in this league, because he's great and a wealth of knowledge that he'll share.
Fake. And they take it for the run, and a good tackle was made by Harris. The fake by Corey Lynch, who was signed in late November. They pick up 3 on 4th and 8 And so on downs, it goes back to the Houston Texans. And a little special teams move. The Colts didn't pay.
I don't know why you feel like you have to try this unless you want to get more reps for your offense and you feel good that your defense can stop them even if you give them the ball at the 50-yard line. Don't know if it was at all necessary.
I remember doing that game at San Diego early in the season, and Shiloh Kao had the same kind of thing. Fake punt, kept the drive alive. Eventually the win for the Texans in San Diego early in the season with the handoff right there going to running back Dennis Johnson with a gain of 9, and looks like DeVere Posey is down trying to catch his breath. Posey's been kind of quiet today, and early this season he's going to leave, it looks like. Third quarter offense is nothing to shout about.
Nothing to shout about, but give them credit. Special teams finally made a play for Wade Phillips, stopping the fake punt.
Bruce Keenum has thrown a couple of interceptions today. Here's a 2nd down and 1. Hopkins comes in for Posey. Johnson, nice hit there by Vernon. Slowed him up just enough so that Jarrell Freeman could get him the leading tackler, no gain. In that Arkansas backfield, Dennis Johnson played with Niall Davis, who's now a Kansas City Chief and a 3rd-round pick. That had to be a pretty impressive running back tandem for the Razorbacks.
And both guys run very hard, and they can step right out of the tackle if you don't wrap up firmly.
11 consecutive losses for the Texans coming in. They have not won in Indy since pro football went back to Houston. 3rd down and 2. Johnson picks up a block on, and it didn't pay off. Fighting right through it was Eric Walden, who came and makes the sack, and some self-congratulatory movements there. 3rd sack, loss of 10. And the Houston Texans have got a punt.
Oh, here he is right here. That's Walden, as you mentioned, signed this offseason as an unrestricted free agent, former Green Bay Packer, brought in to do exactly this, to play opposite of Robert Mathis, provide a bookend, and if you get one-on-one blocking, got to win and get to the quarterback.
Punt by Leckler in what is the 4th consecutive 3-and-out. That ball's going to land somewhere inside the 5. If Victorian can swat it back, it's loose and picked up by Whalen. And he crossed the line, so it's going to be a touchback. It's going to go back. So here's the resume for the Texans in the 2nd half. 4 3-and-outs plus the safety. Wow. Coming through, Eric Walden with the sack and the Christmas dance. Pretty shot. Dominates the skyline here in Indy. Lucas Oil Field, 1st and 10. Richardson, Watt and company, along with Sharpton. See, they're still digging in there. Gain of 2 on the play to the 22-yard line. Coming in at the top of the broadcast, Solomon, there goes a flag late. You see a flag right in the middle of that scrum. You were talking about lack of consistency for the Indianapolis Colts. I think now they've maybe regained some. Let's get this call here from Jerome Boger. Number? What's the number? Okay, thanks.
After the play was over, personal foul, unsportsmanlike conduct, offense number 78. Half the distance to the goal, the down counts, 3rd down, 2nd down.
But looking for some consistency.
Looking for consistency on offense, obviously. And I think Andrew Luck has been able to rise above the fact that he has lost a valuable much-needed weapon in Reggie Wayne. The fact that the running game has been less than stellar. And then last week broke out with his first career game where he had 4 touchdown passes and 0 interceptions. They didn't win that game, but you could see the beginning of this offense gaining some stability and explosive playmaking opportunities.
After the penalty on Churlish, 2nd down 19, draw play. Richardson and some space. He breaks Swearinger, and he breaks a Mays tackle attempt. And finally, it's Swearinger and Sharpton to come up and make the stop on a gain, a burst of 14 up to the 25. Let's go back on that penalty moments ago.
Ooh. Look at the chairless. Look at chairless.
Uppercut.
Is that an uppercut to the gut of J.J. Watt?
And
really?
Watt saying, you do that one more time.
See, and Watt didn't retaliate. That's what you like about it, because had he retaliated, he would have drawn the penalty flag.
He was trying to punch out the ball, maybe.
The league is going to crack down on some of the extracurricular verbiage that players are saying to one another, and the things they're even saying to officials down on the field.
3rd and 5. Richardson into his own blocker, and that was Xavier Nixon, who is taking the place of the injured Joe Wrights. It's a gain of 3, not enough, and the Colts have got a punt.
Going back to that play about with Goster Cherilus, I mean, that's just something that I'm sure if Chuck Pagano saw that, he would immediately address it and say something to his player. He's doing it right now. Look, see that? Because I know Chuck Pagano. I know the things that he stands for, and he's going to make sure that it doesn't continue.
Well, I'm going to bet he was punching away at the ball, trying to get it out.
Is that what you're going with?
Well, I'm trying. It is the holiday season. You want to give.
Well,
and I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
How about being truthful as well?
I know he was giving him the business inside. And about the 23-yard line on the McAfee punt. 49-yarder. Just under 11 to play in the fourth. The South Division champions leading 25-3.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Verizon. Holiday savings on the gifts everyone wants. Aflac. When you're sick or hurt, Aflac pays you cash. Find out more at aflac.com. And by the Acura Season of Reason sales event.
After the punt by the Colts to the 23-yard line, 1st and 10. Kareem is the new running back with Greg Jones. Fullback on 1st and 10. There's Kareem, who was with the Colts, as we mentioned earlier in the broadcast last year. Continues to dig, and finally Landry brings him down after a gain of 5. With the 28, quiet guy today has been Andre Johnson.
Yeah, he came in as the league's leading receiver with 95 receptions, but you can see whether it's Vontae Davis or whether it's Darius Butler, they're doing a wonderful job. Here, Davis getting the ball out. A couple of drops by Andre Johnson, been targeted multiple times, but still only able to come away with 3 receptions, a couple of drops. He was targeted 21 times last week after hauling in 13 receptions.
A.J. Kareem met by Antoine Buffet with a first down weaving run of 9. He's up to the 37-yard line.
Back to Andre Johnson. Obviously, when you can take him away, if you're the Indianapolis Colts defense, it goes a long way into limiting this team to only 3 points as we're now in the 4th quarter of today's game. It all starts with shutting him down, and then you're able to shut down the Texans offense.
So the Texans, their first down since 40 seconds left in the 2nd quarter. On their 37, 1st and 10, here comes Kareem again with another nice lick that time on a gain of 3, and he's up to the 40-yard line and brought down by Calvin Shepard. You know, this season has been marked with one injury after another for a lot of teams, but this team was without Arian Foster in the preseason, came back, and then had to shut things down with a back injury and other issues. Obviously, they've missed one of the premier elite running backs in the NFL.
And one might argue that a very valuable link to this offense, because when he gets going, boy, this offense could be unstoppable.
Foster had 3 straight 1,200-plus yard rushing seasons. Second in the short 7 yards as they go outside, and there's no gain on the play. And Andre Johnson was the one to catch and then felt the avalanche of blue jerseys on him.
As we talk about this Colts defense and limiting Andre Johnson, not giving up big plays, we talked about Andrew Luck making plays for the offense. Chuck Pagano said it. He says, you know, as we get into the final games of this season, final few weeks, someone's going to catch fire. He said someone's going to gain momentum. They're going to carry it into the postseason, and they're going to get hot in the tournament. That's what's required to win a Super Bowl, and it starts with these final 3 games in the regular season.
Ben Tate is in, and uncovered was the quarterback, and Josh McNary came in on the blitz on that 3rd and 6. It's incomplete. McNary played at Army, signed to the active roster in late November. 5, and they got a punt.
Take a look at Case Keenum. Look at the hit there. Just runs right through him. No penalty flag on that one. Delivering a lick, Josh McNary.
Leckler to punt again. That's all they've done in this second half is punt and allow a safety. Waylon fair caught, 13-yard line. 46-yard punt. 8-12 in the 4th. Colts, sizable lead. Sellout in Indy, one of the great venues now becoming that in the NFL. Super Bowl here not too long ago. All the years of Peyton Manning here. We'll continue with Andrew Luck, who has found his game last 2 weeks. First down and 10, the handoff to Richardson. Wrapped up by Crick and others who push him back. We're going to give him a gain of a yard on the play. We were talking about consistency. Talking about Luck reclaiming his game, and then last week continued to this week, we see the numbers that support that.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a guy that I think going to play at a high level for a very long time in the National Football League. You've got to protect him. Even his owner tweeted that out earlier in the season. Got to protect number 12. If you do that, he'll put up these kind of numbers, and he's going to give you a chance to win every single Sunday. He's going to keep you in ball games. It's about the defense creating turnovers and putting them on the short field, as you have seen today.
With the second down and 9, Trent Richardson with a nice block, and he's off to the races. They haven't seen much of this. His longest run has been 22 yards. That one was 21.
He's got a little smile with the mouthpiece in it, doesn't he? Can't you just see? This is just total relief. Everyone in Indianapolis is elated to see this. You've got Hall of Famers like Eric Dickerson in the building, Marshall Faulk in the building, and now you got Trent Richardson running like they expect Trent Richardson to run.
Donald Brown is out with the stinger, and so Richardson getting the majority of the snaps, if not all, and trying to cash in. He's caught nice passes today, 4 for 38, including a touchdown. First and 10. Trent again. That time with the read on it. Watt and Mays. No gain on the play. I don't know who's going to take over this Houston team, Sully, but whoever is going to find kind of what Andy Reid found in Kansas City, although a much better version. A lot of good players on this.
A lot of good. Remember, the team that Wade Phillips is coaching today, they are the two-time defending division champions. Now, obviously, Indy wins it this year, but they've got that kind of talent. They're going to have one of the top picks, not just in the first round, but in the second round. So they're going to add the even more talent that exists on this football team.
How about 99's motor? That never turns off. Second down and 10. It's T.Y. Hilton. That goes whistling over his head. Incomplete with the coverage by Jonathan Joseph. It'll be third down coming up on the Subway postgame show. JB, Dan, Shannon Boomer, and Coach Bill Cowher have all the latest NFL scores, news, and highlights. All coming up. Subway postgame show next, right here on CBS.
Don't you just love the temperament of Andrew Luck? Did you ever see Andrew Luck like overly excited or angry or frustrated about anything? He just seems to handle everything with such great poise and always in command.
That's a good comment. Third down and 10. Hard to believe he's only a second-year quarterback.
Oh, he's ahead of his years.
My gosh, here's the draw play to Richardson, dancing by Sharkin, hit by Watt. Locked down by Eddie Pleasant. Corkscrews up to the 46, picks up 9, 4th and 1, and the Colts will have to punt. I mean, think of the shoes that he fills. Think of the shadow he's in. I mean,
it's a Grand Canyon.
Well,
I mean, that's the kind of shadows that if you're filling the space left behind by a Peyton Manning, right?
Yeah.
Huge void.
But probably no one better equipped to come out of college ball, and I can't think of how long.
Kind of the same pedigree, right? Having played for a dad who played in the NFL, Oliver Luck.
Who had to be a terrific influence on his son, goes to Stanford, plays for Jim Harbaugh. You know what kind of relationship they had, the kind of tutoring he had, as it's fair caught by Keyshawn Martin at the 18-yard line on a 36-yarder. Have a good day for Luck and the Colts, who are going to win today.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by the new Intel-powered 2-in-1s. Intel, look inside. And by Chase Freedom. Get your cash back.
The Indy Zoo getting a good workout here in the holiday season. Here is a 1st and 10 with the flag. Some early movement may have been on 75. Right tackle, false start.
Before the snap, false start. Offense, number 75. 5-yard penalty. Still first down.
Penalty, Solomon, number 13 on the Houston Texans.
Yeah, that one's just trying to get a start. Newton infected by the crowd noise there, isn't it?
Jerome, turn off your mic, my man. Yikes. You hear that ringing in there?
No? What? I'm good.
What? First and 15. Kareem is back there with Case Keenum. Here comes Werner. There goes Keenum. He is a good one, a guy in the making. Werner is a #1 draft choice out of Florida State. Bjorn with his first NFL sack.
There he is here, Kevin. They don't even count for him. They get all confused. Newton at that right tackle position as they release the tight end. You got to fan out. Well, they just confuse the protection scheme for the Texans and get home to the quarterback.
Big moment for a kid like that.
Oh,
to get
huge
a
moment.
sack like that.
First round pick.
Second down and 22, and Kareem will get the draw play, hit by Buffet, who continues to play hard with under 5 to go. Gain of 2. Let's go to New York and James Brown.
101 left in regulation. Miami not giving up.
Yeah, New England scores a touchdown. Miami comes right back. Marcus Thigpen 14 yards out from Tannehill. They take the lead 24-20. New England has the ball, less than a minute to go in the game.
Tight one indeed. Back to Kevin Harlan and Solomon Wilcots.
But remember, JB, New England has 5 fourth-quarter comebacks this season.
And if they win, they clinch the AFC West division title.
Third
the
and
East, I should say.
Yes, here's the 3rd and 19. Arching throw. Oh! Nice catch made by the rookie receiver DeAndre Hopkins. Shades of what he did on the game-winning touchdown reception against Tennessee 3 months ago.
Here's the first-round pick for the Texans making a play. We've seen him do this, Kevin. This kid is closely passing Andre Johnson, rookie record for receiving yards, making a play, and you might say that Hopkins may be the heir apparent, even though Johnson's got plenty of work to put in.
So they get out of a hole. Here's a 1st and 10 toss, and it's caught by Griffin, who slides with Buffet into the 41. It is a gain of 11 and a first down for the Houston Texans.
That was just a nice catch by Griffin. Nice sliding catch. Keep things alive.
Approaching 3 to play. Keenum. Looked like Kareem wasn't even sure where that ball was going to be thrown, if at all. Studebaker with the pressure up the middle.
Oh, Studebaker. You talk about nice aiming point here on Case Keenum. Right for the midsection. Runs right through Keenum.
2nd down and 10. Against Cincinnati last week, that Colt defense forced a season-high 4 turnovers. Today, they've picked off quarterback Keenum twice. Here comes the blitz by Buffet. Keenum gets it away, and it floats helplessly incomplete as they were looking for Lestar Jean.
Wow. Now, you talk about aiming point. You got to run through a quarterback without drawing a flag. Look, he travels a long way right to the rib section of Case Keenum. Locked and loaded is Antoine Bethea.
Had a sack earlier in the game.
Yeah, Keenum can take it, though. Those young quarterbacks always seem to pop back up after those kind of hits.
They do. 3rd down and 10. With his 8th start, as we talked about before. Going deep again. Oh, he's got him. He's got him out of bounds. The coverage was by Josh Gordy, and Hopkins had it, but on a play.
You're right, he had him, Kevin. Threw it late and didn't get it down the field and keep him in bounds if you're Case Keenum. You keep Hopkins in bounds there, you got yourself a touchdown. He had the defender beat.
You wonder why maybe they weren't throwing deep earlier in the game, because they've had some success here going deep.
Look at that, 36 dropbacks. He's being hit, hurried, and harassed.
Of course, it is more of a prevent defense now, so they're going to give up these yards. They want to protect the backside. So you don't mean to glorify it too much, but it's a little life. They need the 31. It's 4th and 10. Griffin the tight end, but Faye did not bring him down with the extra dive there at the end. A nice effort. And then they get down to the 30-yard line, and he picks up 11 yards. And he's got the first down.
Oh, they're going to have to spot it anyway, aren't they?
Well, it looks like. Let's watch this again.
Timeout, Houston. They're first.
Knee down.
He is down
there before he lunges forward. Good play by Antoine Bethea.
Nice job by our camera guys to get that perfect shot. Very definitive. So Houston took a timeout when they didn't need to.
Nope.
It's going to be challenged by Chuck Pagano, and they're going to win this challenge. What do you think about the idea of a centralized replay system in the NFL?
I think the idea is a good one. I think the technology supports
Indianapolis
it.
is challenging the rule of the field of a first down.
Yeah, this was going to come back to where the knee hit the ground, but I like the fact that you can go through a centralized place and have the governing bodies of our league sort of rule on critical moments in games. But there you see the knee touchdown well before he hit that first down marker. Chuck Pagano did a wonderful job of assessing the moment and getting a snapshot of that play right there where the knee is down. This ball is going to be short of a first down.
And it was 4th and 10, so it'll be on downs. Turn back to the Indianapolis Colts. With 2:42 to play. Vance Joseph there in the red shirt calling the plays, and now is the interim defensive coordinator. Is the former defensive coordinator, Wade Phillips, has been elevated to interim head coach.
And to Vance Joseph's credit, let's face it, yeah, Colts get 25 points, but how much did we see Andrew Luck on a short field by way of a long return, by the way of the interceptions by Case Keenum? When your defense is playing on a short field, it's very difficult to keep the score down. Now, one area, remember, they came into today's game ranked dead last in red zone defense. I think that's an area where they have to continue to work to improve.
Luck there moments ago talking, I think, with Minuski, the defensive coordinator, on the sideline. You know, people probably don't realize that these quarterbacks, they try to pick the brains of this defensive coordinator, saying, hey, if I do this,
what can I expect?
What's your counter? And that's always a nice way. I know Peyton Manning did it. Rich Gannon did that all the time.
And look at Vance Joseph. You know, he and Greg Minuski, the defensive coordinator for these Colts, they've served on the same staff in San Francisco under Mike Nolan and, of course, Mike Singletary. Let's take a look at this. Clearly the knee is down, so we believe, we already know they're going to bring this ball back and mark it short of the first down.
Wait a minute, how do you know? I mean, you can see it right there. You just see
called clear visual evidence.
I know, but maybe it's some inside information.
No, clear visual evidence.
After reviewing the play, the ball carrier was stopped short of the line to gain at the 33-yard line. It'll be Indianapolis' ball, 1st and 10 at the 33.
See,
Please reset the game clock to 2 minutes, 46 seconds.
See, today's modern
Indianapolis
version.
is not charged a timeout.
Okay, all right, Boger, let me get this in here. I was going to say today's version of a crystal ball is what we call instant replay.
That's right.
You get a look at it, you make the decision.
I was wondering if maybe Jerome called up to you and said, hey, Sal, just let you know what's going on.
He was still in airtime there, wasn't he?
Right, yeah. Coming up, the Subway postgame show. Join JB, Dan, Shannon, Boomer, Coach Cowher. Scores, news, and highlights from New York. The Subway postgame show is next on CBS. This would be 9th win for the Colts. They're struggling with the spot here of the ball.
Because of the reversal. Houston has 3 timeouts remaining.
He's on that mic. That's a pump fake, you know. You try to go, he goes.
You know, the pressure's off when it's 25-3 and you've got about half the building full. Maybe you feel like you can kind of stretch yourself to sharp choices. To sharp choices in the backfield where the Colts. Former Cowboy and works his way up the middle. He's hit by a host of defenders for the Houston Texans. That's a timeout taken by Houston. Choice signed off the street this week after Chris Rainey was injured. It was a gain of 5. Let's take a look now at Pagano and the Colts have left at Kansas City. What's interesting about that one is that's the team they could face in the playoffs.
Absolutely, it is, and they'll have to go on the road to do that. And they want to get to 10 wins. They want to finish strong, as Chuck Pagano had told us. Don't want to go into limping into the playoffs is how he put it. And they want to try to hit the ground running. I think they're going to come away with this game very impressed with what they got from Trent Richardson running the football. They know he can catch it. He can pass, block, and protect. But the way he ran the ball today, I was impressed.
2nd down and 5, and choice again. He was whacked by Sharpton, gaining 4, so a yard to go for a first. It's almost as if those passes that they throw to him out of the backfield kind of get his engine going, get his rhythm going, and maybe that helps him with his running.
You know, gets him comfortable in the offense. I could tell you this is not easy to land on a football team in the middle of the season and hit the ground running, being productive as if you were there during training camp. And I think he was slow to grasp the system. And the articles that I read this week, his conversations with Reggie Wayne spoke about it. And now you see he's kind of getting a better feel and rhythm for the offense. And maybe catching the ball out of the backfield is just one way to get him going.
In the meantime, Houston has called yet another timeout.
Yeah, and for the life of me, I don't know why. Because at this point, it's a fait accompli.
Yeah, watch the second.
He's trying to say to his team, we're not going to quit regardless what the score. We're in the game. Indy has missed their last 9 third downs. Here's a 3rd and 1, and Choice is the choice, and hit by KO, and we have another flag. There have been 13 penalties on Houston after they had 14 last week.
Offside, defense, number 59, in the neutral zone at the snap. That penalty is declined. The result of the play is the first down.
Merciless looked like he was jumping on the other side, and that's what they call, much to the chagrin of Wade Phillips. So that is 14 penalties on Houston.
66 offensive plays so far for Indy. This defense has been on the field for a considerable period of time. One might begin to ask, you begin to wear down physically, but also mentally.
51 to Mike. Watch the slant again.
Check out.
Davis.
Here's a first down for the Indianapolis Colts with Choice taking it up, and he's into the grasp of Sharpton and others and allowed a gain of 2. You know, some teams can handle injuries, some teams can't. The Colts have, I think, done a wonderful job of navigating the significant injuries they've had. We've already mentioned, you know, Ahmad Bradshaw. We've talked about the receiver Reggie Wayne. It's really been a compliment to the Colts that they've done as well as they have.
You know, we talk about the football IQ of their quarterback, Andrew Luck. You know, he's gotten this defense to jump off sides 3 times a day with his hard count. There you go, right there. See him? He's the reason why you get so many penalties against this Texans defense. It's smart, heady play of the second-year quarterback, Andrew Luck.
119 yards worth of penalties today. 2nd down and 8, and Choice once again to midfield, and KO and Swearinger allowing a gain of 2, just creeping into Texan territory. This will probably take us down to the 2-minute warning. I know that Manning was legendary for his preparation, but I can't believe that Luck is anything less than what Manning did here.
How fortunate are these Colts to go from Peyton Manning to Andrew Luck?
Miami has defeated New England, so they move up to number 6 and back at Kansas City. In the division leader side, New England blows a chance, because had they won, they would have been 11-3, and they got the tiebreaker over Denver. But don't forget about Cincinnati, because they're down there looming as well. And Cincinnati will play tonight with a handoff here on 3rd and 7 to Choice, with the tackle by Jonathan Joseph at the 44.
And if the Baltimore Ravens, remember, tomorrow they play in the Monday night game at Detroit. If they beat Detroit, they'll knock Miami right out of there again, because they hold the tiebreaker, having already beaten Miami earlier this season in Week 5.
How about what Joe Philbin has done in Miami with all the movement, the controversy with Incognito and Jonathan Martin, and the subsequent inquiry by the NFL, and just the fact that he kept that train on the track. He kept the hand on the road.
They've improved.
They have.
In light of all of those adversities.
Says a lot about him. Denver has beaten Cincinnati had beaten New England earlier in the season.
Right. Hold the tiebreaker.
If they get tied.
Delay of game. Offense. 5-yard penalty. Still 4th down.
If they get tied up, that will bring up an interesting set of consequences. These last 2 weeks in the NFL are going to be fascinating as these teams jockey back and forth.
Yeah, Cincinnati on the field tonight at Heinz Field playing the Pittsburgh Steelers. If they should beat Pittsburgh tonight, they'll move into that number 2 seed. It'll be their 10th win of the season, and by virtue of the tiebreaker, having already beaten the Patriots this year, they would hold that number 2 seed behind Denver.
Pittsburgh comes in with 5 wins on the punt by McAfee. Martin at the 10. Keyshawn is out of bounds about the 21-yard line and forced out there by the tight end Jack Doyle. And by the long snapper, Overton. And next week on CBS, these are the big games coming up. Denver, Houston, obviously. The Colts in Kansas City in the first window, and that later window, the Patriots in Baltimore. Pittsburgh, Green Bay could turn out to be a very interesting game. The Packers play in Dallas. And I'm kind of thinking that if Aaron Rodgers sees his team, it all begins, by the way, next week with the NFL Today. 12 Eastern, brought to you by Southwest Airlines. If Pittsburgh would win and Green Bay would win, that would set up a doozy at Lambeau Field.
Are you kidding me? Aaron Rodgers, Ben Roethlisberger playing in that late window.
Playing for a chance maybe to get to the playoffs, stay relevant. There's a throw, which is caught by Griffin. It was brought down by McNary, and that is a gain of 5. Keenum today is 18 of 34, 2 interceptions, 168 yards. And the tight end, Griffin, has been the leading receiver for the Texans, 6 and 62 yards. Ben Tate picking and poking his way up to about the 31-yard line. Brought down Jarrell Freeman with the tackle. As the clock continues to tick, Houston cannot stop it with a timeout.
You know, one thing we've learned about this team, yeah, they are a coach away from not rebuilding, but how about reloading and re-energizing to what we've already said is a very talented roster. But one might say they are a quarterback away as well. I think it's clear they're going to move on beyond Matt Schaub. And Case Keenum, not so sure he's the quarterback of the future for the Houston Texans. But there's going to be some dynamic quarterbacks coming out in this 2014 draft class. And they're going to have the pick of the litter because they're going to get a high draft pick. And they're going to be able to add one of those quarterbacks to this talented roster.
All right, the Colts go to 5-2 at home, 9-5 overall. 12th consecutive loss for the Houston Texans. Another disappointing weekend for Houston, the worst record in the National Football League. And with the win, the Indianapolis Colts have just given the Houston Texans another loss here in Indy, where the Texans have never won. Big day for Whalen off the practice squad, onto the roster, and with a touchdown pass to get things started. Coming up next, the Subway postgame show. Solomon Wilcots, Kevin Harlan, so long from Indy. You've been watching the NFL on CBS.